It's 9:00. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good, all right, good morning.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what to say. I'm assuming we can do business without somebody in that chair.
Just our minutes is
First.
what we'll do that.
First order of business, move to approve the minutes of Monday, June 24th as written.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thompson's moved. Beach is seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We had checks and vouchers on Wednesday, the 26th. Motion to approve those minutes.
Also move. I'll second.
He's moved. Curry seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. That's it for miscellaneous motions at this time. First up will be Rhonda. Cleanup on the docket, huh?
Yeah, I got, two to go for today.
How you doing?
Good.
We got two of them.
Two different projects.
Okay.
The first one is for Robert Shoemaker at Lebo area. It's 108 East Broadway Street.
The house.
Yes. And they are planning to maybe put a duplex in there after it gets cleaned up. The house doesn't look too bad on the house side when you see it. I know. But then you look at the second picture.
A little different inside,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So he has requested to get the landfill feed waived on that. Brad Mullen will be doing the work on it, so.
Right.
Mhm.
You gonna rebuild or do you have any?
They're thinking about putting a duplex maybe on there.
That's Mr. Knight's area, but I'll also move.
I'll second.
Especially if they're thinking about putting a duplex, it'll just
Yeah.
increase the value of that.
Yeah.
So I moved. Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I second.
Curry seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's 4-0.
Then my second one is on Richard Allen, 1075 11th Road. You can see the pictures on there. There's an old shed. They'd like to take that down, and then he will build back a house on that. Let's see.
I think that's again in Jesse's area.
Well, I think we had Tom, but I could be wrong, but
What's your address?
it is,
No,
no?
I'm
Okay.
just in the city. And
Okay, 1075 11th Road. So, okay.
that would be,
Lindsay had just looked up, she thought it was, so.
Was,
But that's okay.
yeah.
All right, no problem, whoever.
I'll move.
I'll second that.
It almost looks like too much to tear down.
Sounds like they're wanting a spot worse than that.
Yeah.
Shed with no roof.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who moved?
I did.
Curry moved.
Thompson.
Thompson
Aye.
seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0.
Okay,
I
thank you.
guess that could be. I'd have to look at that map again, but
It's okay.
it don't sound right.
I don't know, I asked her, I said, do you want to look that one up? Because that one, I wasn't quite sure where it was at, and so, it's okay.
Huh?
You're all in
It's,
agreement, so it's all
yeah.
good, right?
That's all that matters, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Cole?
More paperwork. So this month, or it's first of the month, I got our schedule, look at schedule. I got our contingency tracking log and our change order log in there. We'll do that once a month. Okay. So far, we changed it up a little bit this past month, using a different log, just internally. The green ones are ones you all have already seen. And, there's a couple that are in GGA's court currently, and then the rest of them are in the works, getting to you all from us. But, we don't have to spend much time on that if you don't wish. Nothing too major on there. Unless you have any questions.
We walked through that piece by piece, last week or week before?
We went through change orders up through
I got
number
8,
12.
yes, I got 8, 10, 11, and 12 last week.
So on the very left-hand column, and that's where things get confusing, the potential change orders still outstanding and that have not been addressed yet through a change order is potential change order number 5, 14, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, and 27.
Correct.
So all the ones that aren't in green.
Correct.
So those may be coming at some
Yes.
point in the,
Those are the ones we're reviewing costs, making sure they're our cost. And then, 21, or starting at the top, 5, 14, 15, and 21 are all in GGA for review currently. So those will be the next ones as well. As long as they review them before they get any new ones, that should be the next ones you'll see.
So those are going to be change orders, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Then that page before is just a list of all of our allowances and trackers that we had in our, in the GMP, just kind of allotting where those, what they've been used for, and so on, just so it's out there. Everybody knows where it is and what it is. Here, I have an extra one. You'd like? But schedule-wise, I've been tracking. As you can see, steel started and had a pretty good jump in the first week or so of steel. They'll be here. We're going to set some stairs in those 2 stair towers beginning of next week, and then they'll be gone. The steel guys will be gone. They may be here doing a little bit, but probably be gone around the 15th, and then come back the following week, and they'll start on this west side, on the south end of the building, as soon as the masons get out of there. The masons are currently working on the 2 taller walls on this west side. Will be the adjoining corridor, and then the day room walls that'll split the middle of the 6 pods. That's what they'll be working on before they move into the interior. The next step for them will be the booking and intake area, the interior walls, and kind of following steel guys around. Steel guys will hop back in there and do their decking, and after that we'll see a slab pretty shortly after. It's moving.
Yeah.
Like I said before the meeting, it's the big items, the masonry, or the big walls, the masonry and the steel go pretty quick, and then the little detailed areas will slow down, but hopefully see change. I mean, everybody will see changes,
Yeah.
but it'll start to close off a little bit.
I walked the site with Cole Thursday.
Yes,
Is that what it was?
Thursday.
And I was asking for the second floor decking, how thick that concrete would be versus the main floor. The main floor is,
8 inch. A majority of it's 8 inch.
and the second floor will be,
I believe it's 6. I need to look at that, but I believe it's all 6-inch steel or concrete in that pan deck, or not pan deck, but corrugated looking deck.
so it's a lot of concrete, a lot of weight.
They will do the plan is to do the joist, the roof joist and the roof deck first, and then the masons will lay up to deck height so they can actually get in there, not to work in low room, and so masons will lay up, then we'll come back in and put the deck down and get ready for a pour.
I'm assuming that's spec for the lightweight concrete, though.
Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know if it's much different. I mean, there's a lot of beans in there.
Yeah.
Carry a lot.
Yeah, they're fair, is it?
But yeah, usually, I've seen a lot of it at home. Won't use any reinforcement, which this is all mesh, but I've seen them with just fiber concrete,
Right.
just to help lighten the load a little bit as well.
Yeah.
A little different, this stuff's pretty stout for not having any rebar in it. Nope, other than that, it's been going good.
One thing just to mention, and it's a seed planning maybe conversation on to the south of River City's current office, is that pavement.
Mhm.
And when that pavement gets pulled out to do whatever it is, it will be replaced with new either concrete or asphalt. I don't know what the designs call for.
I believe it's asphalt.
Asphalt on the outside perimeter where the school uses your drop and go, that asphalt is deteriorating, and
At a rapid rate.
Craig Marshall talked to me the other day and maybe planted a seed, and I think right now is a good time to plant that seed as well. Whether this board should consider at the time that asphalt is done, maybe seeing if there's a way to go out and bid it, to have that whole thing redone. I don't know, it will probably need to be done.
Well, I know we've done the concrete off-street parking, if you will, for the school over there many times. and
Right.
That conversation's been had more than once to replace that area anyway.
So I know it had a few holes in it, and filled some in here and there, talked to the county about, they filled one or two in, I believe, and.
That's not a new issue.
Right, but like Wade and I were speaking Thursday, their asphalt cost is usually, I mean, I can't speak for them, but usually is the mobilization is the majority of it.
Right.
If they're here, it could possibly eliminate some, or make it.
It'll help.
Right.
Right.
But, yeah, we just briefly talked on it. Like I said, they're gonna be here, so maybe be a good time, but I know.
How about the courtyard? Are we still in discussion with that?
I think it's been a conversation, the courtyard and then outside the rear of the existing jail where the water pools in the middle. To replace all of that concrete and what it would take.
Right.
I know on just outside the west doors, probably to cap some of the pipes that became a problem down in emergency
Correct.
management and deal with whatever else is.
I call it the courtyard, but that's what I mean, the
Yeah.
west entrance there, so.
Yeah, you discussed that before, replacing that concrete, it's gonna look pretty dingy
Comparison
when we
to
get
the,
a new building and everything there.
well, you're prolonging the inevitable, because that's deteriorating too,
Yeah,
throughout the
it's-
winter, so.
Yeah, it's flopping up and stuff, looked like to me, if I recall.
Be a good time to get it fixed, make it look like the jail.
We would highly recommend, the guys we've had have been very good so far. We had an internal meeting this morning, we had that conversation all around. Had some pretty good subs so far.
Good deal.
Don't know what you're going into sometimes without with different people, but it's been, knock on wood, been very good.
Makes the game easier to play, no?
It is. They're bought in just the same as we are. It's a team effort, not a, you did this, we did that type thing. And it helps,
It does help.
helps the project go along.
Tremendously.
I mean, we got subs calling each other, hey, we're gonna be here, we're ready for you, or can you move? It goes good, team effort.
Awesome, glad to hear it.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Nope. Thanks for your,
Thank you.
thanks for your update.
Appreciate it.
Brittany?
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Do you guys have a copy of my budget by chance? I take it no. That's okay, I can pass these out.
Okay. Are you
I
don't
brought-
know if I had them in here yet, or?
We have 5 copies, I don't know if y'all want one. I brought my detailed budget just because I like it a little bit better. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
So,
I have it in their book.
Okay.
That's okay, I brought some extra stuff. I'm Brittany Hawkins. Mike introduced me in January, saying he was stepping down, and I have taken over as executive director. So I just wanted to come in and go over my budget a little bit, and also kind of give you guys the opportunity to ask me any questions and anything like that, just because we've had a lot of changes in the last year and a half. Overall, budget-wise, I am asking for $275, and last year I think we asked for $273, so we're pretty similar. I've been able to kind of restructure some things as far as like salaries go, because Mike has stepped down. We've struggled in the last year being fully staffed. So if you look at our estimates and then what I've requested for next year, there's a big difference. My ultimate goal is to be fully staffed in 2025. I'm getting there. I actually potentially have 2 new employees that should be ready to go the end of this month. So that's the goal. Feeling pretty positive about it right now. So like I said, I've been able to kind of restructure and make up for, like, our insurance was a very large amount this last year. So because of being staffed a little bit lower, I've been able to use those funds to kind of make up in different places. Our budget is also kind of funky. Today is the first day of my fiscal year for 2025. So I'm working out of 2 budgets with you guys, so that makes things a little bit more challenging. So overall, I don't feel like I'm asking for a whole lot different than what we have the past couple of years.
So your fiscal year is July to July, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
The insurance, currently, it's tripled in cost the last 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Have you changed companies, or what's made that increase of 3 times?
Kimberly told us, we go through TrustPoint, and her and Brett sat down with us and told us the big issue right now with insurance across the board is the general liability of minors. So we allow minors to use our services as long as a parent calls in, but they are allowed to ride by themselves. A lot of companies have said if we had some sort of policy that stated they have to ride with an adult, that maybe they would be a little bit more lax on us. My goal this year is to check with other companies and just put some feelers out there. I have talked to a few other agencies about their policies. KDOT is pretty particular about we can't really tell anybody no, basically, is what KDOT is getting at. So I have to be careful with my policies. So, like I said, I've just started putting some feelers out, and I would like to figure out a way to maybe lessen that burden, because that is very extreme. That was a very unexpected hit this year.
But insurance in general has all gone up.
In general, yes, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. That's a hard one.
It is.
13 employees, I assume they say wage driver.
Yeah,
drivers. Up 110,000, which is 25%. What's that? It's an increase in wages and then being fully staffed.
I have not been able to give an increase in wages. I didn't give it last year. I'd like to give one this next year. I'd like to give an increase. I would like to, with my 2 employees that I'm hiring this month, I'll be at 13 drivers. I really need at least 1 more driver to be fully staffed. So like I said, I understand that is a big jump. Ultimately, my goal is to have a few more drivers there.
It looks like your state and federal contributions have gone up considerably too,
They have gone up.
which is great.
It is great. We technically were cut in our admin budget, but because Mike has stepped down, so that's taken one of our salary positions out, it has not been so extreme. KDOT is kind of getting to the point where they are wanting us to look for other funding for our admin side of it. So our operating has not been touched. They have everything I asked for that I have received. It's the admin side that they are being a little more strict on.
That's okay.
I feel like I've tried my best to really balance things out, but we've had a lot of changes. It's been a challenge.
I know when I first got on board and seen the number of riders, number of drivers, didn't even comprehend the service that it offered for our county.
It is truly an
It's a
invaluable
service that's
service.
just, you can't hardly put a value on it.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yes. And we have struggled not being fully staffed. I feel like we have not been able to do what we should be able to do for our community. So I'm working on that, trying to find new employees. I know everybody struggles with that. Trying to make new connections in our community, and I'm working on it. It is a long process, though.
I don't have any other questions.
I don't have any
I
others.
don't either.
That's good.
Looks good.
Okay.
Appreciate what
Well,
you
thank you,
do.
gentlemen, and I appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. We
appreciate it.
really could not do what we do without you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Good. Steve, you're, my friend.
I'm looking to see if there's a way to raise this, but there isn't.
We can't see over.
You're just tall, you want a chair?
No, I'm fine, thank you. So I may go into too much detail, but that's my nature. I like details, I like facts. Last week I came and talked to Angie because I wasn't sure where to start, but I had a suggestion. And I want to give you a little bit of background before we talk specifically about the suggestion that I've got. In today's world, most businesses, organizations use electronic medium for communications, email, for example. And also we have a software that's called Board Effect. It allows us to look at from home, look at our board documents, make notes on it, highlight things, that kind of thing in preparation for the meeting. And during the meeting, we've got iPads and stuff like that. So with that, it's essential for the board members to be able to utilize those features. Also, the board role is a learning process. As you well know, we've got 4 out of 9 new members this year, and it takes a while to learn all about how we do business, that type of thing. So in an effort to help everyone on the board, it's a reminder for a lot of folks, but for the new folks also. In April, we had a Hospital Finance 101, and we use an organization that's sponsored by the Kansas Hospital Association called GovernWell, and typically they'll give us, we'll have a monitor and they'll be remote, and we have training sessions. We've had those typically at 4:30 or 5 before our regularly scheduled board meetings. And they're voluntary but encouraged. So we had Hospital Finance 101. In May, we had Governance 101. And then this past month, we had Consumerism. And then we've got scheduled Governance 201 in August. In October, Hospital Governance in Challenging Times. And then in November, Hospital Financial Statements and Budgeting. In the last few weeks, we've had, as any organization would have, we've had some personnel issues. They were appropriately being addressed by the CEO and staff. I got a call because we had a board member that wanted to attend a human resource personnel meeting, and myself, Stacy, who's with me, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned Joby and Stacy are here to discuss this if necessary. But I got a call, and the board member wanted to attend, and it was strictly a personnel type issue, and I decided that that's not appropriate for the board member to get down into the weeds, if you will, with those type of issues. That's really for the CEO and staff, and they were appropriately addressing the issues. And I had been informed that there was an issue and high level what it was a couple of weeks prior to that. At our board meeting on the 24th, typically we have an agenda item up front after the Pledge of Allegiance called a mission moment. And that normally we recognize staff and efforts and behaviors that promote meeting our mission statement, that type of thing. So it's a positive type reinforcement. I chose to sort of take that agenda item and change it a little bit and talk a little bit about the board and how we should function and work toward our mission moment. And since we were going to discuss this personnel issue in executive finance, I've got all of this material from the Kansas Hospital Association regarding board role, that type of thing. It goes into a lot of detail. And it had a page and a section called Workforce. And so I went through that with the board members and the staff that were there and trying to reinforce here's the board role versus the CEO's role. So after that I thought, okay, what else could we do to help the process? And my background is in electronics and computers. A long time, 34 years at Wolf Creek, but the last 12 years I was in corrective action. So my mind sort of thinks about a problem and what can we do to prevent it or to help mitigate it. So I thought about the application process that we have here for new board members. And my suggestion is a statement be added that basically is a high-level summary of what board function is. So the applicants up front, before they even get involved in the board or get selected and appointed, they have an idea of what they're getting into and what they should do or shouldn't do. And Angie, have you distributed this?
I put it on their tablets there that they can look
We
at.
have,
Okay, so I have hard copies if anyone would like.
And then I forwarded it to them prior to the weekend too, so.
Okay. Sure, I do.
I take a hard copy, I've got it right here, but I put this in a file.
I understand.
Of course, I've already got this printed off too, so.
Okay. So I did solicit some, I'm okay with wording, but Tracy Jones is the best I know at, nothing offensive there. Mark. But Tracy, I have a high regard for her ability with the English language and wording and stuff. So Shane and I worked on this last Friday, and this incorporates the electronic medium aspect as well as board roles. And I didn't know if you wanted to just me read it to you, but the suggestion is this be added as a part of the application process so the new folks can understand what's going on.
I've read it, and I think it probably would be a good idea to do it that way,
Okay,
just personally.
I understand, and I'm okay either way. It's just a suggestion of, looking to the future. What can we do for the next folks?
Wade, there isn't anything wrong with adding this to the one-page statement, is it? Or one-page application.
No, and this is specific to the hospital board?
Well, when I talked to Angie, you want me to?
Sure.
So when we talked, I was actually pleasingly surprised that Angie was really very receptive of the idea and wanted, instead of just making it for the hospital, she wanted to make it applicable to all the applications for various boards and stuff that you have.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
After reading it, I've read it
As I,
a couple, 2 or 3
And we
times.
tried to make it general so that it would apply to most boards.
It would encompass most boards, I would think.
Mhm.
I think it's a good idea to do that.
Just have to change one line item for, whatever board we're working, probably.
This is just be incorporated into the application, whatever application it would be up for.
Do you want to see a copy of that occupational one?
It's
You
kind
wanna look
of, when you,
Some of it may not be for the CEO or executive
That's right.
staff.
What I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
that's the only
I think that one line's gonna have to be adapted to the position we're asking for.
Yeah.
We could put or director or
Yeah.
administrator.
How it would fit.
Something that should
Right.
be generic to kind of cover everybody,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, there's no pride in authorship.
Like
If you want to edit or change this, that's fine.
Would be a CEO.
Yeah, in our case, there would be a director or board,
Mhm.
am I correct?
I'm gonna ask and see if there's anything else that we need to add. No? Okay.
It looked to me like it'd be a good fit for all of our,
Here's what we hand out, that
all
everyone
the boards.
fills out.
Yeah.
I should have had this ready for you to look at. Oh, you got that, yeah.
These are right here.
The applications are pretty short,
Mhm.
not very informative, and that would probably,
This is,
because you're right, Steve, it is a learning process for most people that do sit on a board. It's nice that they volunteer their services, but I don't, a lot of us don't fully comprehend our roles, so we get in there and start helping, so.
Yep. And it is a challenge because some people's paradigm and their perspective, they want to be in making those decisions at those lower levels and stuff. And that's not our function. We're strategic, we're oversight, to make sure that we do things with quality and safety and financials, in mind. So, yeah, it is difficult, and we're working through that process.
I don't have a problem adding it.
no,
Like I say, I think it would encompass a lot of the boards that,
Yeah, I mean, we get down to secondly here, I mean, then that changes a lot for second and third for what board we're talking about. I mean, I think it would apply to yours,
Mhm.
yes. So it probably, but wouldn't, like we said, wouldn't be a fit for all.
Okay.
So the hospital board is just advisory. They don't take part in major decisions that are made
No,
at
we
the
do
hospital.
take part in major decisions. We just don't, for example, we have a supervisory disciplinary issue. The board does not make that decision. We may be informed about it, and that's part of the executive session process, as you well know,
Mhm.
if you get into personnel matters and stuff like that, to protect someone's privacy. But no, we'll make the major decisions, Wade. But
I mean, like if you're talking, an addition to a building or
Oh,
a major thing or closing a facility or
Yes.
something, the board's gonna have their say about that.
that's correct.
Correct.
Yes, yeah, even org chart, we approved the new org chart with, this is Jobin's last month with us, unfortunately. We're missing. And Stacy has graciously agreed to be our next CEO as of a month from today.
Right,
So
right.
those decisions the board definitely makes.
And I'm not trying to take away from their
time goes.
part in this either, that's not what I'm saying, I just, just wanna make sure I understand the board's role.
So we have have to think about what I can say, because part of this was an executive session and I can't relay that.
Sure.
But we were talking about our Chief Financial Officer position. We've got interim in, and so we went into executive session and discussed possible candidates for that position, the pros and cons and stuff like that. And one of our board members, we've just gone over the workforce stuff, the do's and don'ts. One of the board members noted, hey, we just went over this and it says we don't have any involvement in the hiring, that type of thing. Why are we talking about this? Well, Jobin has had a habit, and other CEOs that I've had experience with, they seek our counsel. They want our input, and they get a variety of input before they make a final decision. So it may not be our decision. We can help influence that by what we think and sharing that.
Right.
But it would be up to the
I think
CEO.
that's very wise on his part, you know, to want that. There's always another perspective. Here constantly, we hear, I didn't think of that.
Exactly.
That's a different angle. So the more minds you get involved, that may not be the direction that the decision goes, but it's beneficial.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, question answered for me.
Very good. Anything else? Thank you for your time.
I have a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
We've talked before, and speaking of appointed boards, and this covers the entire county,
Mhm.
would you think there would be added value to include what I call a general statement regarding a code of ethics for board members?
I think code of ethics and also confidentiality. Because those are both two documents that we get signed for new board members in January. You know, because the challenge is we don't all agree on things. And once the board's decided, the majority rules. And when we go out into the public, we need to represent what the board decided in a positive manner. So by all means, I think both of those would be a good addition.
I think of it, hopefully this analogy makes sense. You go in and in a jury trial, the goal is in jury selection is to pick a jury that's going to be fair and impartial for that particular set of facts.
Mm-hmm.
For a board who is hearing whatever the issue may be, being fair and impartial to whatever those facts are, whatever that item they're listening to, do you feel that some sort of written document that explains that fair and impartiality would be important for a board? I mean, we all have our, what we call on the criminal side, our implicit biases. So I always use the analogy, I'm a huge Michigan fan, and anything to do with Ohio State, I will not be fair and impartial because I've already made my mind up. So
Definitely, and that identifies conflict of interest there for you.
exactly. So and conflict of interest, that's another good one that explains conflict of interest in a certain situation.
Yeah.
That for a particular board.
Yeah, the challenge with conflict of interest is a lot of folks don't recognize that they may have a conflict of interest. And the way our bylaws are written, you may be on two boards, ours and another one. Decisions related, so that may impact that other board that you're on. Ours takes precedence. You have to decide what's best for a coffee health system first. And if you can, or you must recognize that you've got a potential conflict of interest if you really want what's best for the other board versus coffee health systems. So definitely conflict of interest is there also. And we're a small community. I mean, a lot of folks know a lot of folks. And that's sort of what got some of this issue going is people talked to the board members and then the board members thought they ought to help.
So maybe with the application process, maybe a small little handout that explains exactly what you have here, conflict of interest,
Perfect.
ethics.
Yes.
And that's attached to this application process so that people are aware ahead of time. And I'm sure it's not reinventing the wheel, it's out there. But and this is a conversation I think we've had at different levels that I've had with different people based on situations going on across the county, that it's important that you have people who understand that role and responsibility.
And if you'd like, I can get you both of our forms that we fill out, if you'd like to have that reference.
Sure, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
What would be the best avenue to get this rewritten, if you will, to sooner as opposed to later, because we just signed acknowledgements on a few people applying to the planning and zoning board, and there's some seats coming up in the fall here, so implement this sooner as opposed to later. What would you see the best avenue to get that done? I mean, could Angie write up a draft? Can we have Steve write up a draft, and we can all, or what do you, what's your input
on that, maybe?
I think the more people involved, to an extent, the better. You know, you've been working on it, so you probably have a good understanding, and maybe you have some ideas on the exact language based on what you're dealing with. You've been a board member for a period of time now.
Go back and help, get Tracy's help.
Oh, yeah.
If that's okay with everybody.
Oh, that's great.
I think,
Am I correct, did you have kind of a draft of something at one time, or did you, some things you thought we maybe should add, or am I right?
I have language specific to conflict of interest and that type of thing. I think I don't have anything finalized. I think it was going to be a work in progress, but timing is.
I think Steve's got a pretty good handle on how to construct that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you had something you could give to them, not to say it needs to be added word for word, but just thoughts or something maybe.
Like, we got 2 coming up on housing in October, we've got 5 or 6 more coming up on 2 other different boards at the end of the year, so.
so I'll get with Tracy Jones, we'll draft something up. Who would you like us to send it to? To Angie?
Angie, and then she could,
Be fine as long as everybody else, okay? I mean,
Or unless you wanna send it to Wade, you can have him do that if you'd rather.
maybe legal would be the best way
Oh, yeah,
to make sure.
How about both? I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have something you can.
Can you put your email on there for me, please? That works.
One thing
Thank you.
I guess maybe what I would like to add would be, I know this commission appoints the board members,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm kind of trying to look at it from 2 different lenses, if you will. I know I hire a person thinking, wow, this guy's going to be great, or, and all once that really just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess how would, once we appoint someone to a board, if it's not working out for that board, what would be the procedure to remedy that situation for the board? If that makes sense. Or is there one? I mean, do you gotta wait till the reappointment comes back up? I mean, or can it be remedied prior to? I don't know the legal aspects of that.
The way I've looked at it, attendance, for example.
Correct.
We've got a couple folks that have missed 2 out of 6 meetings thus far. I missed one. I missed May's, a family outing. Our bylaws and constitution looked at this weekend, and it's fairly vague. It just encourages attendance, and consistent attendance. I look at it as my role as the chairperson. I get to do the canceling with the individual. We might have to have a one-on-one discussion. My way of addressing everyone on the workforce issues was because we were all going to go into executive session and talk about the stuff, and I wanted to remind folks what our role was at that time. But I've been trying to give it some time with some folks and trying to work on it, not just one-on-one, but in general. And we do have one individual that doesn't use electronic media, doesn't use email, and we're accommodating that individual with phone calls and mailing the documents, that kind of stuff. But it's just a little extra effort and cost associated with that. But we're doing that accommodation. So from my perspective, if I don't think I'm going to be successful, I'd want to come back and visit with you, but that would be a private conversation when we talk about an individual performance.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the policy is, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know what it would be on our board, when we hire employees, they're on 6 months probation. I don't know if there's any way you could adopt a probation program after 6 months in your bylaws or not. I know I was involved in the board for 36 years there at the co-op. and our board members turned over every 6 years. It's all they could serve, then they had to get off, and we bring new ones on. So I've dealt with a huge amount of board members, I did it mostly great, but we never had a policy, you know, to release them, I don't know what the right word is, to release them after 3 months or 6 months if they didn't perform or they didn't attend.
Right.
I didn't have an attendance problem, but I basically didn't have a performance problem. But Steve, I don't know how you connect that on a board member that didn't work out. I don't.
Yeah, and Don, for me, you know, this is my 11th year, and it takes a good year or so to actually feel like you know enough to be comfortable with asking some intelligent questions and that type of thing.
I'm into this a year and a half and still not comfortable.
I was gonna say, as
I'm here, Amy, still good.
So I'm not sure I'd want to change our bylaws to adopt something like that at this time. And it's, so this is, it's fruit for you to consider for the future. Changing out that many folks on the board makes it harder. Honestly does.
Those decisions are hard.
Yep, I can appreciate that, and you have a lot of candidates.
And you end up with somebody's not gonna be happy.
Yep.
Just like you're talking about, if you tried to remove somebody might not be happy, but sometimes you gotta make some tough decisions. Part of my reluctance to get on here was making enemies, but you gotta try to do what's best.
Right.
And you know, and if people can't deal with that, then that's on them, I guess.
So I don't have an answer for you, Tom.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. I mean, somebody's gonna hopefully have an answer, but, or maybe not hopefully, but
Hopefully,
surely there's an answer to
well,
that.
my hope is I don't come back and talk to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're not elected, so, I mean, I can't see
That's what I mean.
reason why they couldn't be replaced.
Well, my opinion would be the members of the appointed boards are appointed by this board. So if
Right.
there's an issue at the board level, the board makes a decision, makes a recommendation then to this board as the appointing board, and this board, outside of some nuances depending on which board it is, motion to remove somebody from their appointment and then open it up to fill it back up. That's my opinion, because
That's the way I could see it happening, but I didn't know it could, so.
My thought is, an interim step would be, maybe encourage that person to resign.
Sure.
Before.
That would be the simplest way.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
You're more than welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in the future there, Joey.
Oh, thank you.
And you as well.
Thank you.
By all means.
Well, he was gonna leave, we'll probably see you again.
Yes,
That's right.
yes, you will, you sure will. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
We'll get something soon as we can.
Yeah. Well, we got a break scheduled at 9:50, so we'll just break till 9:58. Very good.
On target so far.
And, you are back.
just around, so let me look it up. So if you want to plug this into, are you gonna need to?
I don't need a hot
Oh,
line anymore.
okay.
That's really all I wanted there.
Ready.
You have a copy of that?
Here's a copy.
Oh, yeah.
Send it around.
I'm gonna save my paper next time. Do you have any of them?
Okay, you're just,
Yes.
Oh, well.
Yes, I pronounced it in Spanish, Joel. Thank you.
So the only thing I need to do now is get it linked up up here.
Morning, Heidi. Good news. Yeah, but I sent you one here as well.
Still, but I can get it on there. I printed it.
Okay.
That's really helpful. So I'll go.
I could put this on there then and we could just, because I have it on here.
Oh,
The one that's circle turned through.
Useless is,
On that, because it's only so late.
And I've got yours, 7,
gotcha.
3, and 1.
Yeah, 3 were last year. We got 7, 8
8 altogether.
Seven.
My granddaughter. Ended up getting
Crazy,
baby boy.
crazy rain.
Oh, it rains hard.
We haven't got anything.
That'd make life better.
Few sprinkles.
It was crazy,
So
just
got
down here,
one
it's like
through,
dry over here.
2 little ones at one. So,
It was like, hydroplane on the road for a
Our
while.
generation now is
Yeah,
that
heavy rains.
they could end up with what we had, it's another generation.
Yeah.
they could have them.
I guess it works somewhere that way.
You're good to go, we'll just have to test the audio. Make sure
Joe Rivers.
Joe and
Charles.
Charles should be up there.
See Charles.
Good morning.
Morning, Charles.
Morning, all.
Morning.
Morning.
There's
Joe's
Joe.
there,
There's
too.
Joe.
Good.
There he is.
This is a different deal than what was sent out.
No, this is the same one. This is one that we sent out yesterday.
It is. That's not the one I got a copy of.
It's been revised and updated.
Okay, my copy's not like that.
When did you print that one off? Or is that the one I gave
Yes,
you?
afternoon.
I bet that was an old email. Or could
This
be.
one here was sent at 3:27 yesterday afternoon.
Give that showing us.
It's definitely different. I think Angie had an extra copy.
Yeah.
This here?
Let me see what you have.
Yeah.
I don't think. No, it's the same thing.
Got a different front page.
Different format, yeah.
No, I get you. They got a copy like we've got anyhow, that's all.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So this,
No worries, no worries. We'll make sure we got the same documents, right?
Yeah.
So, good morning.
Morning.
So last time we met, we were going through what I would consider the framework for a development agreement, working towards an alignment on the terms of an outline development agreement. And the actions from last time we met to current state was to get that alignment and get some input from some of the consultants of Coffee County. We have since met with Joe Serrano. We've also met with Sam Green, and we've worked through various meetings and conversations and versions of advancing the outline agreement to its current state. So today, I feel real good on where we're at on getting to what I would consider an outline development agreement that we can walk through today. And that outline development agreement is now aligned with all your consultants. Still work to be done, and we'll walk through actions left to get it to a state that can begin negotiating. But this outline development agreement is at a point that now we can have those discussions on the appropriate time to submit it to TEM, have TEM start reviewing it with their counsel to make sure that there's alignment there between two parties and there's a path towards executing an agreement when the time is right. So the main things that we've really covered and advanced in this outline development agreement were protection of Coffee County, clearly defining expectations and requirements of the private party developer, TEM, and really outlining the expectations and the contingencies or conditions of this outline development agreement. So you'll see here, and I'll point out in certain sections, that we've got in here protections to make sure that it's clear in this outline development agreement. We all know the private developer, TEM, seeks to acquire this property, seeks to develop a fabrication facility, and that's heavily dependent upon grant funding and investor financing, correct? So in here, we wanted to make sure that that's transparent, that's there, it's understood, and that this outline development agreement not only acknowledges that that's the source of vehicle funding for the private developer seeking to acquire and develop, but it's contingent upon that, making sure that the proof of funds, evidence of funds, and a path towards financial feasibility for the project is clearly understood prior to any commitments of Coffee County. So that's what we were working on to make sure that we've got that. So I don't intend on going through every section of this, but I'll point out certain areas where we've created that language. So starting with the recitals, in this section D and E, we've really outlined and identified the CHIPS Act. And then F here, the parties agree that if the project is not financially feasible without the funding available under the CHIPS Act. So it's very much tied to that. I'm going to hop to section 104. Evidence of proof of funds. Parties understand and agree that this agreement in its entirety shall be subject to the developer's receipt of CHIPS award and developer evidencing all other funds necessary to finance the project as determined by the county. Now, in other sections here, we went on to further define the scope of the projects and the financial responsibilities. Some blanks that are still left to be done, I'll talk briefly on those actions required. Coming up with a method to produce a valuation of the property. And that can be done by historic data and what industrial parks are selling in this region or in this area on a market study. That could be cost per square foot on developed or shovel-ready, call it, industrial park site. Or you could build up a cost basis. What is the cost in it for Coffee County? And what is the cost to develop the common area infrastructure off-sites to get it to a shovel-ready state and recoup those costs? So we spoke about it last time briefly, and we've done a few studies to engage some data. We don't have, by any means, a solid base point for cost per square foot on your site, but we can develop the cost basis for actual costs and projected costs as well. But that'll be something that we'd be looking to work with Coffee County on the intent for that transaction and that purchase and sale agreement.
Would what's happening, say like at Gardner, Edgerton, or even the Ottawa area be a comparable price? I mean, I don't know what that up there goes for, but I just assumed we could use that.
Correct. So those are definitely good comps. One source that we reached out to, they ran even a wider comp in other areas and came up with recent sales over the past 18 months and what those closed on escrow on cost per square foot for industrial parks of different various sizes. And they certainly range all across the board. So, you know, I think we need to start narrowing it down and see what is a like-for-like true comparable. So I thought, you know, those ranges, we don't have enough datum yet to really share that.
Okay.
But that's an initial pass at this point so far.
Yeah.
Great question. Other actions required will consist of the industrial park being formulated. So we talked about the way the different projects may be managed and maintained from Coffee County versus TEM. The common area of the KSMC Industrial Park, Coffee County will, one of the actions will be to develop a source of that vehicle for managing, maintaining that industrial park. Whether that's the Industrial Park District, an association that continues to manage and operate the industrial park in perpetuity, and understanding the structure of that, and then defining what that appropriate assessment or buy-in fee of the private developers that develop on the industrial park, and what the year-over-year annual membership dues would be. That is still an action item that will need to play out as well. Questions on that? The public buildings. So now we put some information in here that clarify that the parties acknowledge and agree that these certain buildings and public facilities are required to be provided, because they're a CHIPS requirement. There's nothing that says specifically you need to provide a daycare and training facility unless, in other words, if TEM was not in the picture and it was a industrial park you guys were seeking to invite a logistics company, a food and beverage company that was not seeking CHIPS funds or federal funds, there would be no obligation for the daycare facility, the training facility, or EMS wellness facility. So what we did here was identify that they are required to be provided. However, the two parties will cooperate together on the best method for selecting a design team and coming up with the approach on developing those facilities. And then on the back end, to execute the actual facilities, it'll be really up to Coffee County on the best means and methods to do that. If Coffee County can benefit out of owning and operating and maintaining the daycare facility, the EMS wellness facility, and the training facility, then that'll be Coffee County's to say, and you can develop a PVC and have that and enter an agreement with a end user on a lease agreement, and maybe there's some revenue gain on that. But if it doesn't make sense, then there's a conversation with TEM on the private side and say, how is this going to be funded and how are we going to go about developing it?
On the funding, though, that would be funded out of the CHIPS Act part of it?
Part of it, correct. So the CHIPS application currently has these three facilities, these public facilities, in as part of the application. So any grant funding that would be approved, portions of that would go directly to these facilities. Yeah, and it's a requirement that they have these facilities as part of that initial phase of development.
Right. Very good.
Based on square footage, how do you, those three facilities, how do you arrive at a cost for them, or would it just be us putting the building up?
So right now, because it's very conceptual and speculative, we put together a rough concept, primarily around the design team, and we just took historic data on what historically cost per square foot those type of facilities would be, more of a commercial type facility, and that's what we have right now as a budget that's incorporated. But when CHIPS funding were to get approved, then we'll start dialing that in and say, okay, the two parties, let's come together. TEM, what do you need in reality for a training facility? What kind of workforce, what kind of continuous education, what kind of training, for what volume? Then we'll really start programming the footprint of that training center, and nail down that square footage and that budget. But right now, off the top of my head, I think there's 10,000 square foot for a training facility at X dollars per square foot on a historical data for a commercial type building. That's plugged in for that. Similarly with a daycare center, and the same with the EMS training facility.
So one time Flint Hills Technical are they still involved in? I mean, is there still interest from them?
From my understanding, yes. We haven't really been a part of that, but through the public-private partnership agreement and the KSMC consortium, my understanding that they're still
a player.
They're still a player, and
so that would be part of the training process, or I assume. Is that correct?
Correct. And others that I understand,
Right,
other regional,
right.
Higher education.
And I just use Flint Hills, but yeah, there's several entities there that I think are interested.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So that would be the action left on the public facilities there. From a zoning and special use aspect, we know that there was a rezone application and permit, and we know that there was a special use permit required as part of that process. So we incorporated in here Section 205 to just outline that and make sure that we're adopting those resolutions that were recorded through Coffee County, and most importantly, the stipulations or the conditions tied to that special use. And those also are items that are left to complete in order to fully adopt that special use permit. Some of them included a screening plan, make sure they're working with the local sanitation code and environmental requirements, traffic study, which I believe the traffic study may be completed.
It's complete, it is complete.
Okay.
We did have to take it through the KDOT process, but the draft is complete.
And a few other more administrative items that need to be completed as part of that special use permit requirement and the final zoning permit. So we wanted to make sure that we're calling that out in here, and that'll be another open item whether Coffee County sees those items through, or in the transition and transaction and sale, if that assignment then gets onto TEM. Nonetheless, we want to make sure that two parties are aware of it, it's not lost in translation, and it's intentionally monitored and tracked and completed. Questions relative to special use permit?
Nope.
And we included that in Exhibit G as well.
No, for zoning, you got any questions or anything? Give her the opportunity when she's to hear herself.
No, she's been very helpful. I met with Heidi after our last meeting to better understand, where that current state was, what those resolutions were, how they were recorded, and what's still open. So she's been a great resource.
Good deal.
So similarly on the sewer district, that would also that's also an open item for Coffee County on creating a sewer district, and we worked with Sandrine here to make sure we have the appropriate language for statutes on putting together that sewer district. I'm going to jump to...
Would it be too soon to be asking the question about how that's going to even exist, I guess, as far as
Not at all.
handling all this sewage? I mean, is it a larger lagoon? What is it, I guess?
So, Saban, if I can tap into you on the water treatment facility, the lagoon that's kind of evolving into more than a lagoon.
Well, we've answered answering an email, so your question is just where are we at with that process?
Yeah, I was just curious, I mean, maybe it's the wrong time to be asking this, but I mean, is that what we're doing, just building a series of sewer lagoons for this out there?
So we, as you all know from the original concept plans of the site, we were headed toward lagoon solutions. Some of the most current water numbers that we're receiving from TEM and Exide are greater than what we believe the capability of the lagoon system can do on its own. And so we're looking at a combination of maybe I'll call it a package treatment plant and lagoon system to handle the wastewater system. That still has to be worked out, but we are seeing more consistent numbers. We're not seeing a lot of change in these larger volumes from TEM and Exide. So I think that's where we're headed. But we have included this thinking into the budgeting that OL and Burns and Mac has been doing. So, you know, even though the current concept shows lagoons, we have budget in there for dealing with the potential of a package treatment plant as well as.
So we're doing our best to anticipate what is going to occur, what will likely play out. And so including not only on the budgeting side, but our language here, making sure that the sewer district is done in a way that not only serves KSMC Industrial Park, but from what I understand can be a regional resource for other needs. And that sewer district will need to also put together some type of a usage agreement for TEM and other KSMC Industrial Park developers to help finance and fund it on a usage agreement, as well as any others that would be off-site of KSMC Industrial Park that may benefit from that as well.
Sorry, I felt like I was going off in the weeds on you there, but.
No, not at all. Please, anytime, any questions you guys have, I think it's appropriate time to do as deep as a dive as you guys would like.
Okay, all right.
Carl?
What it is, KDHE, I wanted just to piggyback on what Saban was saying. KDHE gave us some guidelines on what we could and couldn't do with the lagoons. We've reached that volume where we have to go up to the package plant at this time. And then it's being designed such if we take in larger volumes, then we can just add another, what we call another package plant to it.
Yeah.
But we've exceeded that volume limit on the lagoons. Now, also what's been included in the discussions too is Excite and Garney is looking into recycling reuse of wastewater also.
Okay. Thank you. And a lot of these are, again, we're in conceptual stage, and as CHIPS funding becomes available and we turn into detailed design, basis of design, a lot of those decisions will be flushed out, and all of these facilities will be more specifically designed to what the actual needs will be.
Okay.
I'm going to jump to this item here. We, in terms of defining the term of this agreement, and more importantly, an expiration of this agreement, that is also something left for us to better understand. And Joe, I don't know if you're on and if you have opinions on this statement, but it was one left for us to continue a conversation on.
Yeah, Joe Serrano, QTech Rock, Special Counsel to the county. I think this is just an open item because, as Joel had mentioned last time, we're talking about kind of a pre-award action and then post-award action. And I think once this is developed, we would have a better understanding as to what the actual term of this agreement would entail. So I think that's just an open question that we have to resolve at a later time.
Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
I'm going to hop over to exhibits to walk through the list of exhibits and a draft of those exhibits that we have incorporated. So the project site being the larger KSMC Industrial Park site, legal description and site map. The developer site, legal description and site map being the TEM lots that they anticipate acquiring for their development. The project scope of work and budget, Exhibit C, I don't have included at this point. Those dollars and scope are moving targets as well as tied to CHIPS funding and have some confidential information there. Exhibit D, I did include a draft of a timeline and milestone schedule. Exhibit E, insurance specifications. Exhibit F will have all of CFS documents tied to that, and then we included as Exhibit G, the rezoning and special use permit resolutions. So this is the project site map, the larger KSMC Industrial Park. This shows the off-site improvements anticipated for improving US 75, Old 50 Highway, Links Road, Links Place, and then of course the on-site common areas and the common roads that would make up KSMC Industrial Park versus the site map for the two lots identified and the legal descriptions that tie down those two lots that are defined as the lot boundaries for which TEM intends to acquire.
Where's their access on those two lots?
The access, here, I'll jump back to the industrial park site map. Access would be through these common roads coming into the industrial park and creating this loop. This main intersection off Old 50 Highway, entering into these lots. And then there is a secondary trucking logistics freight type delivery anticipated off of Links Place to the sidewalk.
Do you want a copy of this? I'll get you one.
The 273 acres that we purchased, isn't some of that property to the west where this is?
Yeah, correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Your parcels, I believe, run all the way to Links Road.
Right.
I believe the only parcel that is not is this rectangular space here that has that existing residence there. Everything else on here, 3 different parcels, one separate parcel being this beautiful house that's there, sitting empty that you guys are maintaining, and then these other parcels there.
Well, and I'm wondering if, these fire stations and whatnot, if the measurements would work or whatever, could not be remodeled to this buildings here be used for the fire barn or the ambulance barn or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just.
Now, I don't wanna go off in the weeds, and that's probably a conversation for later maybe, I don't know.
I think I'll put it this way, after, you had brought that comment up to me, we're already looking at it, but again, where we're at and trying to move this into TEM's hands to get the negotiation moving.
Right.
This is where we're at, but it's clearly on the table. I think it would be at the direction of the entire commission, that if you want us to go dive deeper into a reuse of that property, for a different purpose, say the training center, the fire, whatever it is, we're prepared to take that deeper dive. It just, so that I think it's a reasonable part of the solution to look at.
It's there. I think you do have a hard time selling that beautiful house with the,
Industrial park and
well, I mean,
CHIPS fabrication.
right up there in the front yard, I don't remember what that is now, but next to the driveway, down next to Highway 50, future
Those are the, day.
Oh, you're talking about here,
Yeah,
here,
daycare
yes.
and the training center.
So in other words,
You're sandwiched between
what
two.
could daycare and whatnot be in that
Gotcha.
encompassed in that,
So
up
you're saying-
there instead of, yeah.
Utilizing,
Exactly.
reusing these facilities for these programs here rather than building new.
Correct.
Gotcha. No, that's definitely something that can be looked
Maybe.
into.
Maybe it's not even feasible.
I think the other thing we can look at too is if, because you own the acreage off of Lynx Road, that west property,
Correct.
we really have left that alone because of, just with the watershed boundary there, kind of minimizing the impact, which has worked fine. But you do own that property, and so there's another option.
Right.
That if the house, can't be reused, or if we were to move those facilities off of Lynx Road, that's another option.
Right, rather than right there by the house.
Correct.
Correct.
You know, I don't want to necessarily come back to the square footage that we're going to be able to charge. But there's 100 acres plus to the west, 150, that'll have roads built on it at a later date, have construction built on it at a later date. That'll be added cost for us. Will that cost be added in to the cost of TM's project, the square footage?
You're saying anticipated future developments to the west?
Yes.
So traditionally in an industrial park, there would be another phase, and that pro forma would be handled separately.
So that
for
would be a
those.
separate,
Now, some may be in a different ways of going about it, right? The master planning of this current phase to recoup the development of the common areas. And then the second phase, and depending on how many users you anticipate, one or two, having that pro forma to recoup costs for those sales and those
that'd
developments.
be a different project, a different square footage cost,
Correct,
totally separate from what we always set the cost here.
correct. Different timing,
Okay.
different, but now
That may be 5 years down the road.
from the buy-in fee from the Industrial Park Association and the annual dues, those are your other ways to be able to handle that as well.
Okay.
But these are all great questions.
Sorry, may I interject real quick? If you change the use of the house and decide to use it for the daycare and stuff, we'd have to talk about rezoning that again.
Okay.
And especially on it, so I wanted to just bring that up, make you guys aware.
Yep, thank you.
Great point. So the house is, all of these three parcels are tied to that same rezone permit?
Yes, the
Right.
house is not, the house is currently ag, and,
Okay,
and it does not have a special use on it.
Okay.
It's about 8-ish acres.
so the house has not been rezoned?
Correct.
Okay.
Everything else around it has.
I think too, part of that is, if I'm not mistaken, was, the early understanding was you all were trying to dispose of it or sell it as is to whomever might be interested, so that was the reason it was left.
Well, that's still on the table.
Yeah, so,
I mean, if somebody from TEM or any entity out there wants to purchase it for whatever they
I
want.
was only, that's the reason the zoning is the way it's been left, because that was the original,
Yeah.
direction.
There might be a possibility, in my mind, that if it's going to a private individual, we probably need to rezone it and probably put that lake in with the house has been another option that we talked about too, to make it more desirable, so that'd just be something we'd have to rezone, right, Heidi?
And do boundaries again, of course.
Yeah.
And as it relates to the current application for funding through the Department of Commerce and the CHIPS program, the facilities for the daycare, the training facility, and the EMS wellness, as they stand now, would then represent a worst case, because if you post-award, as we get through detailed design and engineering, if there is a path towards repurposing and reutilizing those facilities, then that would be a betterment. Now, certainly there'll be some adjustments through the CHIPS funding and validation and all of that, but right now, the way that it's currently submitted would represent a worst case, so, you know, there's a trade-off and analysis there to see these facilities newly developed, utilizing portions of CHIPS money that federal's chipping in on, you know, versus reusing and repurposing an existing facility. You don't get quite as much back from the federal government.
Okay.
You know, so there's proportionately you're getting more money back by developing and building new 3 distinct buildings. You know, so just want to make sure you guys are aware of it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sometimes if you know someone's saying, hey, I'll pitch in, but percentage-wise, you might want to get a bigger.
It hurts more than it helps.
Yeah.
Because those 3 buildings will be built specifically for those, EMS.
Correct.
Each design would be specifically for that entity.
Correct.
Yep.
Understood.
Correct.
That helps. Thank you.
I'll jump into our timeline here. So this Exhibit D is project timeline and key milestones. Traditionally, this exhibit intends to identify very specific project-focused performance milestones. In this particular case, it's pretty unique that we're not talking about a shovel-ready, permit-ready project with a permit waiting to be pulled, site mobilization, notice to proceed, substantial completion, you know, in a traditional standpoint. So I wanted to make sure that we put together a project timeline with key milestones that identifies the pre-development activities, the funding source activities, and we commonly you've been hearing us say commonly pre-award and post-award activities. So I wanted to make sure that we captured that in the best interest of Coffee County to make sure there's transparency as well as expectations from TEM on their side, and they're working hard towards. So this has been in collaboration with TEM to identify these pre-development activities outlined as the CHIPS preliminary memorandum of terms issuance. Right now we're targeting August 1st as the date to obtain that. And TEM, you heard Carl here recently talk about some of those efforts on getting in front of the U.S. Department of Commerce to help influence a faster issuance of that PMT. There's been a lot of progress made on that already. We've met with the state of Kansas, we've met with Kansas Commerce, and we have continuous daily touches and weekly updates where we're obtaining letters of support and getting closer to defining that August 1st date. Assuming that August 1st date of a PMT issuance, very speculative as well, is the CHIPS Notice of Intent for Award date. We're projecting October 8th as that date, heavily influenced by, historically, the Department of Commerce and the CHIPS Program Office issuing funding prior to the end of their fiscal year, which would be September 30th. So those are the target dates, and that's kind of the method or philosophy behind those dates. This next section, 1.2, utility provider infrastructure improvements. We know we're also talking about a unique project here is it's heavily dependent upon major infrastructure utility improvements. So similarly, TEM would be obligated to enter into a power purchase agreement, a gas usage agreement, a water usage agreement, and those agreements would then spark and create the projects that are necessary for those utilities to extend service to KSMC Industrial Park. So the power utility in service date, gas utility in service date, water utility in service date, these are all assumed dates that we've gotten a better understanding of what these projects will take, the timelines of those, and assuming that these utility agreements TEM cannot enter into those prior to a understanding of a CHIPS notice of intent for award. So following a proper sequence, we're forecasting notice of intent to award. Now they have their money from the government. They can have their private sector investor soft commitments turn harder. And then they can enter into these power purchase agreements or utility agreements with the utility providers. So you see the November 5th date identified there as those signing days, if you will, for those utility agreements that then, springboards those utility infrastructure projects that would extend the power to the site, extend the gas to the site, extend the water to the site. So you can see some of those dates there projected out for those potential in-service dates for power, October 16th of 2025. Now there are means and methods for getting temporary power for construction, and then initial power for house power. So I don't want to confuse this date as being the only source of power. There's other sources to continue developing the site and having construction. Similarly with gas utility in-service date, April 8th, 2026. There are other means and methods for temporarily shoring up some gas prior to that. And of course, water utility in-service date, April 27th, 2027. So we've been working with the utility providers to get some clarity on those dates and what the requirements are ahead of getting those projects teed up. So similarly, TEM on their fabrication facilities, programming, they need to finish their design. Right now they have a conceptual basis of design. And that basis of design would need to go through a refresh and then go through programming phase and then detailed design phase and then a permitting or issue for construction phase. So these dates here are outlining the programming, completing programming date, January 6, 2025, completion of detailed design, July 23rd, 2025, and then an issue for construction date, otherwise known as a notice to proceed, site mobilization date, projected as January 14th, 2026. So you see on that, I've outlined dates that are milestones for completion of construction on certain stages. The fabrication core and shell, the fabrication plant TI or build out of the interiors, and then the fabrication MEP and special systems completion or mechanical completion. That's September of 2027. And you'll see this ready for equipment date, RFE date. That's a critical date for the equipment, manufacturer equipment suppliers, and the manufacturing process. So that ready for equipment date, the specialized equipment or long lead. So they look at things as what is our RFE date and what is our RFM date. RFE ready for equipment, RFM ready for manufacturing. So that ready for equipment date is projected September 2027. And they'll need to go through equipment installation, equipment startup, commissioning, and all of that before they can actually start manufacturing product. But you can see that ready for manufacturing date being a November of 2027 date with a closeout and final completion in that latter part of November. So that is a fabrication, the TEM fabrication facilities there. I thought it would be responsible to include some of the other timelines that are non-TEM responsibility. That's KDOT public road infrastructure improvements. And you can see October 15th of 2024. That date we've anticipated. There's ongoing and understanding of some level of a cost sharing model. I think there's some work left to be done to rest upon that. But a cost share model with KDOT and an understanding of funding agreement for those Department of Transportation improvements, and then go through programming, detailed design, site mobilization, and construction. So we're projecting out September of 2026 for those, what I would call off-site roads, highways, infrastructure to be improved. The KSMC Industrial Park, I've got in here by others because it's not a TEM responsibility, but this would be your common areas and your industrial park improvements. This would be Coffee County's responsibility. So following the same methodology, a funding agreement, that's this development agreement, a purchase and sale agreement that would then, give Coffee County a high level of confidence to move forward with programming, detailed design, issue for construction, site mobilization, and completion. So the improvements of the industrial park, we're showing September of 2006 projected. And of course, these public facilities or public buildings that we talked about, EMS, daycare, training facilities. I've got them all lumped in together in one, because we don't know which one takes precedence and how that's going to play out. Certainly some buildings are much easier scope to build and faster to produce. Others may be on the tail end. So these overall duration includes all three of them. Anticipating some level of a funding agreement, sometime in October of this year. Then programming, detailed design, issue for construction with a final completion of those facilities in June of 2027. So what I did not include in this timeline were open items and activities of Coffee County. The purpose of this exhibit is to identify TEM expectations, and but in concert with these dates, certainly we should have conversations on what is the right time for pre-award activities for Coffee County to do on setting up industrial district, industrial park association, the PVCs for some of these public buildings, some of the administrative stuff that can be done in advance to be prepared and ready for when funding becomes available, that we're not reacting, we're being proactive and working together in that timeline. Questions on the timeline?
The roads that's going to be constructed within this project, whose responsibility is it to get a company to install that road and get contracts on it? Is that our responsibility?
Are you talking the KSMC Industrial Park Loop roads? Yes, that's Coffee County's
Coffee County's responsibility to get a contract.
Correct.
Back to the CHIPS award, if it is awarded, I don't know how many dollars it'd be, several hundred million, I suppose. Where's that? What happens to that money when because that money is going to be used for a year and a half, or 2 years? Does it stay in their possession until they're sent a bill?
So it's put in an escrow account, let's call it.
At the Commerce Department?
Correct.
Okay.
And that has a disbursement agreement and an agent that is auditing progress as part of the Department of Commerce. And they'll issue that in progressively. So this timeline, for example, if this timeline was the timeline that we've submitted to Department of Commerce at the end of the PMT, that preliminary memorandum of terms, that period is a due diligence period that where a lot of that gets shaken out. What's your schedule? How are you doing this? Do you have utilities on board? Do you have the master developer on board? How do you intend on executing this project? Then with that timeline and a forecast, the Department of Commerce asks, how are our funds going to be dispersed over time? What is the ask? So part of that is to issue that to them, and that will be the basis for them identifying when funds are distributed and dispersed progressively. And of course, they'll have an auditor, and they come out and verify, yes, in fact, detailed design is complete. Yes, in fact, those funds, those costs incurred were X amount of dollars. It is now okay to release the CHIPS portion to fund that. Next milestone, site mobilization, foundations, shell, so on and so forth, all the way through completion.
So they track it. Do we or you track it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's part of your responsibility.
That's part of us as well as a program management agency agreement to do that as well. That'll be through a task order that we would then, negotiate to have those scopes of services included as well.
And you and Dr. White have already had dialogue with the utilities, isn't that correct?
Correct, and there are ongoing dialogues as well.
Right.
And we're having others, give a quick example. Right now, from the water side, we're using Wholesale District 12 and Rural District 3 as the baseline. But we understand City of Burlington Water has expressed interest and we're continuing to have conversations there as well.
So the Wholesale Water 12 in Burlington, they are aware of everything, and they're gonna lay out the water in this project, and that'll be part of the cost to the TMN. Per square, it'll be added into the square footage then.
Not necessarily. The utility companies, the way they really make their return is on the long-term contract for the usage. So the water utility company, Wholesale 12, for example, they put together a pretty well-defined proposal on what it takes to improve the intake from Melbourne Lake, improve the capacity at Wholesale 12, and then improve the infrastructure to distribute to Rural Water District 3. And Rural Water District 3 as well has put together an understanding of the cost to distribute to the site. So they do their capital project analysis, and then they have a water usage demand that's produced by TEM, in this case through Excite, and then they come up with an understanding of what that long-term water usage agreement is that justifies the improvements of the infrastructure.
That's not our responsibility to
Correct.
see that that's done.
Correct.
Same way with the gas,
And same way with the power as well.
and same way with the power. We have no responsibility, because they're gonna follow
Correct.
what's been designed.
Correct. No responsibility. However, we want to make sure as Coffee County that those things are progressing. Those are commitments, right? Those are commitments that give Coffee County the level of confidence that these agreements are taking place. We can then have a higher level of confidence to then start developing the industrial park.
So basically, the only responsibility we have is the road.
The common areas, the stormwater and the wastewater. Stormwater, wastewater, common areas, common roads, and then off-site improvements relative to Old 50 Highway, US 75, but that's really a KDOT Coffee County shared cost model understanding. So if KDOT says, hey, we need it anyway, we'll fund it 100%, then Coffee County has no responsibility. If KDOT says, hey, I'll meet you halfway, then there's a conversation there. And I don't know enough about that side of it, but that's something that is an open item that needs to be resolved.
I'm not sure what I'm gonna attempt to say, but, so we're looking at some of these timelines. You could have a whole new commission sitting here by the end of all this. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how to word this. I can just see a whole new commission sitting here, and then the next guy comes in and he's like, okay, where are we at? So there's gotta be a lead company or a lead person for all this, as far as I'm concerned, of some sorts. I mean, and I think we created that with Fisher Patterson and Joe, and I guess I just need some reassurance that kind of lines of communication or continue, I guess. I mean, for the future commissioners, I mean, by the end of this year, we could have 2 new ones sitting here, so.
Gotcha.
Maybe I'm going off into the weeds again, but hopefully you can follow what I'm trying to convey here.
Absolutely. And I think, and hopefully you see you know, we've engaged and we've been collaboratively working together, and our intent is that we're in front of you regularly, collectively as the commissioners. Individuals may change, but the team is communicating to the commission, and the consistency and the collaboration and the intent should never change. Certainly there'll be different perspectives brought to the table, different questions, different ideas, different comments, different concerns. But I think, you know, we're very intentional on being here in front of you guys regularly, in anticipation of that. You know, doing public facilities is no stranger to me. Majority of my career has been all about, you know, building public facilities, city halls, fire stations, police stations, county, you know, first responding facilities. So I'm no stranger to that. I've built a judge's chamber, and it was a new judge that came in, and of course that judge wanted his judge's chamber is completely changed, and that was during construction, and we accommodated.
So you got a big change order.
Oh, absolutely. A huge change order, but the date could not move, and that's very common. So very sensitive and very, very understanding of that question. And I think the more that the commissioners see the consultants working together and presenting together, then I think that goes a long way.
Well, I think this commission, if you will, put together a good team with Fisher Patterson, Burns and Mac, got Sabian, Cookwell on board, and Heidi sitting here, and all like that. To make sure we're covered in every aspect of this development, if you will.
Yeah, Carl's helping us on the water side and wastewater and all those things. So
Absolutely.
everybody, road and bridge, you know, whatever we're gonna need.
And that's another great point. I think, you know, Carl's been great on the regular touch bases and weekly meetings. Heidi, we've engaged, you know, and the more that we understand the makeup of Coffee County and the departments and staffing, you know, understanding that you don't have a deep sea of resources, but creating those relationships and creating that continuous touch point and communication is key.
I'm not here, I don't want whoever takes my place to come driving out to my house going, what the hell did you do?
We can't prevent that from happening?
Yeah, good point. We don't offer bodyguard assistance or security services.
No, I think it's a good endeavor, and I think it's gonna be beneficial to Coffee County, I really do. So,
Yeah, we got a great team, I feel like, all the way around.
You know, and one other point to add, we look forward to really better understanding the intent of this industrial park, because if there's an opportunity to attract others, not just TEM, I mean, you've got a big fish on the line, right, you're wheeling in. But certainly there may be other industrial users that are looking for a new home to set up their Midwest distribution, whether it's food and consumer products, whether it's distribution, dry foods, whatever the case may be. You know, I think there's been a lot of legwork done at this point that you could take this and really market it outside as well to see what is the appetite for other industrial users that aren't even aware of KSMC Industrial Park.
Right.
That had they been aware, you know, that phase 2 that we were just talking about, you know, could be incorporated in phase 1. We don't know. I think that is something that the commissioners should discuss as well. We're happy to help with that. But marketing the KSMC Industrial Park more than just the KSMC USA, that's very specific to this, you know, this effort. Right. But marketing KSMC Industrial Park you know, as a Midwest hub connecting the north to the south, the east to the west, for any industrial user, I think there's some efforts there as well that may make sense, that it's very little lift when it comes to putting together the marketing, you know, and the proposals that you can send out to different regions, because they're out there looking, they just don't know what's here.
Well, I've said it many times, like I say, I-35 corridor, I call it, all that industry just keeps coming south, and I think Vito's a perfect opportunity for Coffee County to take advantage of some of that, so.
So in closing, hopefully you see.
Well-
Yes, Joe.
May I just chime in real fast? I apologize.
Please do.
Because I know you're going to close, and I wanted just to get a few comments in, if I may. First of all, there's not an action item for today. This is really an outline of what would be the actions in the future. We'll talk a little about pre- and post-award action items in just a second, but there's not any kind of necessary commitment on behalf of the county at this point. However, it is important for this project to proceed. We're balancing a few things, but one of the things that we're balancing is to show not only that the county has this land available, but also what is available that the county would offer. So when the submission is made to the federal government, they say, hey, listen, we now know that there's another partner that's undertaking this, and these are the items. So we've been talking about, and we meaning Howell and Matt, and Burns and Mac, Wade, Sam and Charles and myself, have been talking about the necessary showing of what we call optics of the support of the county. So that's the kind of the threshold. Recognizing and balancing against, hey, listen, we put in this language in section 104, this is subject to the CHIPS award in the entirety. The agreement is subject to the CHIPS award, as well as other sources of funds necessary to complete the project. Those other sources of funds include those utility aspects that Howell had talked about, those usage agreements, as well as KDOT's commitment. So it's all those other sources of funds that would also be subject to showing what we call the capital stack for the project. And we didn't go over it today, but I think we did last time. There's really no financial commitment on behalf of the county. We have projected revenue, we have projected costs, but we have not seen projected revenues and how to repay any of these costs. And Article 4 of this development agreement is very loose language on behalf of the county that says, if this moves forward, the county would undertake certain types of financings. And as we've said before, the county cannot issue general obligation bonds. The bonds are basically the county is 3% of the assessed value. That's already consumed by other financing. So these vehicles that are being structured, the PVC, the sewer district, and the industrial park, they each have their own ability to issue a form of debt. And again, but for the PVC, it's not going to be really exposure to the county. And we'll talk a little bit about that as this progresses. But I wanted to make certain that we've tried to make this evidence of showing the county support for the project with no financial commitment, because we don't have revenues to reflect how to pay this, and there are other sources of funds that are going to be needed to come in. So that's what I just wanted to make a point, and I apologize for interrupting, but I think it was important to say, listen, no action item, but it's almost like we talked about in the amphitheater, it's a nod towards, yeah, this is good. And to answer Tom's question, and that's a really good question, because, you know, binding future governing bodies is one thing, but recognizing, hey, this could be a new commission, balanced against, hey, listen, this is the county willing to move forward in a manner that it will be developed over time. So, happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to make those points about it.
Joe, this is Commissioner Don Meeks. 7-01 term is talked a little bit about bonds. What is the question or the answer to that? It's in Article 7, use and operation of the project. The term of this agreement shall commence on the effective date and shall expire until bonds are paid or new agreement, but what's that actually mean?
Okay, so Don, so as I mentioned, the county can't necessarily issue their own, just straight up general obligation bonds. We're using that but the industrial park can, it's a defined almost like a political subdivision, can issue bonds that are backed by an increase of the property taxes associated with the land in that industrial park. So we consider it's a geo-backed. It's the full faith and credit, but it's only the full faith and credit of the district's real property, the property within the rural and in the industrial district. If we undertake to issue bonds in that instance, we want this agreement to go out until those bonds actually are matured. Whether it's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years has been pitched around, so we want this agreement to stay in place for that period of time. Again, we are way before whether we're going to issue debt or not, because we don't have repayment, but that was the purpose behind that. And if and this is Sam and I commiserating, if we could enter into separate agreements with, like, for instance, the PBC or the industrial district, that would kind of supersede this agreement, and this would then go away if we entered into those agreements. So we're still working through all of that. We just don't know where we end up on when. But the purpose behind it is we want it to run out until those bonds are paid off, because there's a lot of things like use and operation. We want to make certain it's maintained so that there's some other intrinsic need to keep this agreement in place.
So we don't have any responsibility of repayment of bonds based on what that says?
We don't have any necessary obligation to issue bonds. If you look at section 4, it says it could include, Article 4, it could include the issuance of bonds, but we're not committing to do that because we don't have any kind of repayment schedule at this point in time.
Right.
It's very loose language, again, just to show the optics for that award.
Okay, thanks.
Sam may have things to add, but we've been commiserating together, but that's what I wanted to make a point.
Right, and
Thanks, Sam.
I don't have much to add. I just, a paragraph like that, section 701, it could say it'll expire on this date unless bonds are issued, at which time it will not expire until those are paid. So we just need to flesh everything out a little more before we can finalize that kind of provision. But if there are bonds outstanding, yes, we need some protection for the county for the duration of those.
Good enough. Thank you, Joe.
No, great ad, Joe. Thank you for chiming in.
Yes.
So, Joe hit on it, in closing, I was gonna say that we're not asking for you guys to approve or execute anything. This is primarily to show an update and progress made to get alignment from your consultants and your team to protect Coffee County, have, some measure of expectations and performance of TEM, the private developer, as well as a timeline to continue the conversation on whether Coffee County moves forward with administrative activities to be better prepared in anticipation of CHIPS funding versus being reactive. So those are really the goals for today. We look forward to continuing to work with Coffee County and have those discussions on those administrative processes to see what makes sense to go ahead and get started on now, what doesn't, and as well as identifying valuation of the property and what is that, which method is wanting to be used, and when do we go about doing that. So I really appreciate your guys' time today. Hopefully we hit on all of those things and answered a lot of questions, and we certainly will continue to be in person with you moving forward. We'll follow up on, with Wade and the appropriate time to identify, as well as Joe and Sam, to distribute this to TEM so they can start reviewing it with their council and have some input and red lines and comments back. I'm sure we'll anticipate some of that.
So one item, real fast.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I'd be remiss if I didn't, mention, when I talk about the team, I mentioned the Burns and Mac, the Fisher Patterson, myself, Wade, but also Saban's been involved as well as Carl. So it has been a collaborative effort just to figure out what we can get, where we need to be for this particular stage of the process. So I just want to make mention that Saban has been involved as well as Carl. I failed to mention that earlier.
I didn't mean to sound like a negative Nancy, but it's quite a project. I mean, it's, you know,
Be a long time down the road.
pretty big deal for Coffee County. I think it's, like I say, it's gonna be a highly beneficial thing for taxpayers and everybody,
So this first
I'm
phase,
excited.
go ahead. I'd say this first phase, kind of labeled KSMC project, just rough name. So then if we're looking at developing the west portion of this, is that gonna be like a phase 2? Are we gonna give that a different name?
You don't necessarily have to. I would imagine this entire industrial park, KSMC Industrial Park. And this
You
would just
understand
be-
what I mean?
Yep,
'Cause there'd be other things
absolutely.
other than semiconductors.
Right.
Or I would think it very possibly could be, we've got some interest already for some area in this west part. So
Yep.
that's what I didn't know, if that'd be separate
I would call it
project
more
name
of
or phase 2.
my
or
initial
whatever.
thought is it's just a phasing, but it's all KSMC Industrial
Okay.
Park. Now, certainly if there's benefits to branding things differently, then those are conversations to be had, but you don't, it could just be a phase.
Sure, okay. And we don't utilize all the wastewater and
Same.
everything. We've got all the capabilities for this west part included. Okay, very good. That's all I
Great
got.
question.
If we had to move the EMS, the training and daycare, would that more than likely go on the west side then by Lynch Road? I mean, is that what you would be looking at?
You want to find efficiencies on the common areas, the infrastructure. Saban has put together conceptual utility corridors, and the reason why they're mainly off of that main road there, or Old 50 Highway, is for having that infrastructure already there. So wherever you relocate them, you just want to make sure we're finding efficiencies on utility corridors and infrastructure, so you're not having an outlier that costs a lot of money for just one single infrastructure demand. But yeah, there's nothing here is set in stone. This is all very conceptual.
Sure.
And if we can find betterments and efficiencies, then certainly that's kind of good.
I understand. Thank you.
Very good.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time again, and
Appreciate
look
what
forward
you bring
to
to us.
Yeah.
continuing and working on your behalf.
Well, thank you. Sounds like there's been a huge amount of cooperation between your group and everyone else. I appreciate that on everyone's part.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Charles.
Thanks, gang. Have a nice holiday.
Yeah.
You too.
Take care, Joe.
All right, bye-bye.
You want to close this out? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thank you for letting me use your equipment. Very helpful.
Thanks again, Will.
Yeah, it was great seeing you guys again.
It's good seeing you. Take care.
Yep.
Thank you all very much.
Here for more. That's what I need.
Yeah, we need a lot.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right.
Carl.
See you,
gentlemen.
Yeah, see you, Stan.
Guys, take care.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan said that he's got it covered, so.
Yeah, he'll take over now.
You guys have a good Fourth.
You too.
Oh, I should tell you, I will be on vacation next week. So Rick Walker will be my point guy.
Okay.
Rick's been working on a project, but I'll be,
Oh, he'll give us your cell phone. We can reach you wherever you're at.
my wife might throttle me, so.
says Adam Hope, but I don't.
You're not getting Adam Hope.
Well, then you'll do, I
I'm
guess.
sure we did not get some notebooks and just keep filling it up.
Did we have that wrong?
No, he had some stuff he's
Oh,
I haven't
okay.
started one
got
yet.
tied up on, so I'll just take care of what he had. Guess we'll start with call-outs this weekend. So, Friday night storm, it made quite the impact in the area. It did kind of go through the eastern part of the county. We had some tree damage over around Agricola area, so we had several call-outs between Friday night and Saturday morning, taking care of some trees, and had some washing out over in that area. They had a lot of rain. I think 3 inches is what I heard, maybe more.
3 to 6.
Yeah, so we were setting out a few barricades in places, and so we're busy getting that stuff worked on, fixed up this morning. Few motions. First one's gonna be for a new hire. This would be for a position on our bridge crew. It's a heavy equipment operator. Do you have that motion? or-
I do, I'm sorry. I
That's
was
okay.
Proofreading it, so to speak, before I started. So, move to review and approve CP2 payroll notice for Jared Shepherd, heavy equipment operator, highway new hire, wage classification 3501, with a wage of $20.28 an hour, effective 7/8/2024.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thompson's moved, McCurry seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I was gonna say that, so that brings you up to full?
No, I mean, full on that crew, we're still shy 2 positions, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, overall, if I go back and look, I think we're shy 2 positions yet.
Okay. I could, for some reason I thought that brought you back to square.
Yeah, we've been 1 shy for quite some time, and then we've had 2, had a resignation here a while back, and then still have that position to fill yet.
Okay.
That was just like a week ago or so.
Alright, okay.
Next motion would be a change order, asphalt project. This is the one up there by Lebo. Basically, there's addition of more asphalt to use on that project because of the severe rutting, some subgrade issues up there, so that we wound up using 223 tons more asphalt. So it'll be an increase of $22,563.14.
Move to approve the change order number 1 for A2401, hot mixed asphalt project on Fauna Road, 22nd to 26th. Old Highway 50 for 223 tons of additional asphalt required to correct subgrade failure for a total net increase of $22,563.14 to the contract.
I'll move.
I'll second.
McCurry moved, Meeks seconded. Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to put in my mind exactly where that was at, and now I remember, so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Alright, thank you. Then the next one's a change order for the asphalt project east of town. Last week we had the first change order, and that was for the increase for those bridge approaches, just over $10,000. This one is for a decrease of $6,713.20, and that's just due to the less tonnage of asphalt used on the project.
Move to approve the change order number 2 for A2402C, hot mix asphalt project on 11th Lane east of River Bridge to Planter Road and 12th Road, Quail Road to Reaper Road for 63.35 tons of less asphalt on project for a total net decrease of $6,713.20.
I'll move.
Thompson's moved,
Second.
Means seconded. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Alright, thank you. Next, just an update on the Old 50 project. We had the pre-construction meeting last week, so the start date is gonna be Monday, July 8th. So a week from now, that project will be kicking off. That section of road will be shut down to through traffic from Fauna to 75 Highway. Still be open to local traffic through there. Working on helping to just minimize the effect, the quarry up there, because obviously that catches a lot of traffic. So probably some of our gravel roads is going to be getting used some. We're looking at putting some dust control down going south of that quarry for 2 miles, then back west over to Fauna in front of the houses and some intersections. So roughly this could probably cost $12,000 for some dust control. Don't have the exact number on that yet, but with your guys' approval, I'd like to go ahead and pursue that. Come back with a motion once we kind of know exactly what we're looking at spending there.
We've done this.
Pretty dusty up there.
We've done this before on some D2 routes.
Yeah, anytime there's a big project like this, we always take care of the residents,
Right.
houses, and just, do what we can.
Especially when you increase the traffic.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we'll work on that and have a motion here probably next week or two, on what that'll be, but it should be around $12,000, I think. Next, I'd like to request a 10-minute executive session for the board, myself and Wade, for non-elected personnel and discuss job performance.
How many minutes?
10.
It's 10 tonight.
Yeah.
What's up,
I'll second.
First, going to executive session with Brian Durs, Wade Bowie, County Councilor. 10 minutes, job performance, non-elected personnel, removed. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I'm
then-
sorry.
Oh, Beach moved.
Beach moved, McCurry seconded. All in favor, say aye. 10 minutes, we will go in at 11:25. Need to be kind of, put my shoes.
You need some. You need some.
No action taken. Anything else, Ryan?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to discuss budget just a little bit.
Okay.
I know it's that time of year. I know you guys had some of these papers, but I only had a few copies. All right, so I'm just gonna talk through the various budgets that we have. Just kind of go page by page here. So page 1, basically this is our road and bridge budget. Just looking at a 1% increase from last year. So you see the total there would be $7,239,299. Not really much change there.
The change from 23 though is 1.1.
Yeah, correct. I mean, there was definitely some increase last year on some different things, on some asphalt oil and, we talked about last year on those increases. This year it's just minimal. On page 2, this one's substantial. This will be our special bridge. Looking at an 85% increase, and basically that's for this bridge replacement we're looking at on Links Road up there, that we have shut down. So that's estimated at $1.1 million. They're in the process of the design on that. It was one of 3 bridges that were submitted for KDOT funding. I'd say there's a good chance that one's going to qualify for some funding just due to the shape that it is, but we'll have to see. We should hear something back fairly soon on that. I know the state did call me and asked what our priority was out of our 3 structures, and I told them that one up there was definitely our priority, so hopefully that's a good sign.
Does it get a rating below 50?
Yeah, it's right around there.
Right around 50?
Yeah, or it might even be lower than that, I think. I'd have to look to make sure, but that's, page 3, is solid waste. This is just a 2% increase from last year. Basically, that's just personnel cost, but, $386,767. Alright, now this is page 4. It'll be our equipment schedule. So, this is a pretty substantial increase from what we've done in the past here. Looking at about a 50% increase from last year. Basically, this list here, I'd just like to go through, and we'll just kind of go through it one at a time. Replace B23, it's a 2012 cat motor grader. Has nearly 9,700 hours on it. So replacement cost on that is $375,000. After this replacement, it will leave 1 section blade and 2 spares with over 8,000 hours, which is, a lot better point that we were at here 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, you guys have been pretty understanding and helping us out on getting some of those replacements done. Our end goal is to replace blades at or around 8,000 hours just to reduce the chance of major repairs and downtime. That next piece of equipment, replace T47. It's a 2007 Mack dump truck with 483,000 miles on it. So this is one that we've kind of already have spoken for the first of the year. Kind of have that price about locked in there, but we should get that one fairly quick in 2025. The next one's replace T76, which is a 2003 Mack with 346,000 miles. This truck would probably be a snow truck, so it would need the hydraulics, something different than our construction trucks need. Next will be replacement of the PB02. It's a 1996 power broom. We have 2 brooms. They get utilized a lot, especially this time of year. New cost on that's around $85,000. We've had problems with this machine for a long time with the hydraulics, and currently it's down right now. So I'll have to replace that next year. Replace L5, which is a 1981 Cat loader. It's got some age to it. It's got over 10,000 hours on it. New loader to replace this is going to be around $175,000. Crack filler. Our current model is a 2010 model. It'll be about $30,000 to replace this. We've had trouble the last 2 or 3 years with ours. We've actually, this year and last year, we've had to use the city's machine to finish out our crack sealing before we chip seal.
We've used a crack filler for 2 years now.
The last 2 years, yes. Yes, we have. Next two, we've got a couple tractors on there. One's a 2001 6410 John Deere, and the other one's a 2004 6420. Both those tractors have over 11,000 hours on them. We've had a tractor or 2 in our replacement list for the last couple of years, but just due to our motor grader and dump truck situation, we haven't replaced the tractors, other than the one that was totaled out. So we've got a couple in here for next year's budget. So that's all the replacement equipment. Next, looking at the addition of a few pieces of equipment. One would be a used bucket truck. I think it'd be something that we could utilize. We've rented one in the past. It's very beneficial. We do a lot of trimming with pole saws out of the back of pickups and standing on equipment, and it's not safe. You know, we've got a few larger scale projects, like up there on 50, west of Huntsman's, where there's a lot of stuff that needs trimmed. Periodically, we hire a contractor to come in and do that. That'd be something we'd be able to do by ourselves. You know, be kind of winter type time work, and there's a lot of areas in the county that would be very beneficial for us. And so roughly they're around $80,000 used, I think, for a good bucket truck. Looking at adding a skid loader and trailer. This would be for our assistance fleet, and so they do a lot of entrance work, crossroad work. They don't currently have one on that crew. They could use one about every day if we had one available. We don't. You know, we've tried, like recycling has one that they don't really use that much. We try borrowing it once in a while, and I mean, every time we use their machine, we borrowed it here a while back and blew the turbo or something. It's being diagnosed. I mean, got major issues, and that happened last time we borrowed it, so that would be the one thing we'd like to add to our fleet, would be that skid loader and the equipment trailer. And so our estimates are around 1.7 mil. For those, I mean, those aren't no trade-in numbers, that's just purchase numbers, so obviously there'd be some money there with some of the trade-in values.
So you've got 2.9 in the equipment reserve. So, you know, there's plenty of money sitting there, and there'll be more money going back into that reserve, so.
No, right, and that's kind of what, you know, last year we transferred some money in there, and then we spent some out of there on this used motor grader. And then we've also got the okay to pursue this excavator this year, from some of that money we put in there, but that would.
On the bucket truck, you know, I know that if you had the manpower, probably be needed more than what we're using. What's the new one cost?
I don't know. I don't know on that. If it's something that we were gonna use every day, I mean, you know, I would probably look at new, but, you know, something that we're really gonna be using as needed throughout the year, but, you know, in the slower season, when we're doing more brush control through the winter, that would be something we would be utilizing a lot out there.
I think it'd get old long before you had it wore out if you bought a new one.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
think, Brian?
Yep. So that's basically, our projected equipment schedule for 2025. I know this list started off about another $1 million more than that, and we just started hacking at it and backing off and kind of get to where we feel is the more essential stuff. And obviously that's going to change throughout the year with, you know, as stuff breaks down, and, you know, but really that's just that dollar figure is what we're looking at, and the equipment's a little bit flexible on what we'll get, but that's kind of our starting point right now. Any questions on the equipment?
No. That's just something we gotta keep updated, and that's been our goal here the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, I'm not gonna rehash
Get a little bit more
how we got
aggressive.
behind and this and that, but I mean,
But it's trying to get caught up.
that's exactly right. Okay, the next page, we have some capital improvements. So basically, in the office there, we're looking at just some paint and some flooring. I know, like in our front entryway, we've had some water issues on that flooring. It's definitely showing that. And so just looking at maybe something a little better there where the public comes in and out. The shop improvements, I don't know exactly what all we want, but there's definitely going to be some concrete work around our shop area on some deteriorating concrete. We're looking at, you know, we really got a need for an outside wash bay, kind of the west side of our shop there, and all plumbing and everything's there. So just looking at some of that.
There's not currently concrete there now.
There is, but they're not. We'd like to extend them out a little farther than what they are.
Okay.
Then I know, like in our middle bay, we kind of have some steel runners inside for our tracked equipment. I'd like to go ahead and extend that out on the outside too, so that keep the concrete from getting tore up. But some of it will need some repair, maybe tore out, but we'd like to extend it out a little bit. And then especially on the west side, we're looking at maybe putting a drain and an outside wash bay in, or wash pad.
Right.
Then up at the JSB, we have some salt storage up there, but there's nothing with a canopy on it, no cover. So we're looking at maybe like a clear span, smaller clear span, for up there. And then out the landfill, really the only thing we have right now is just some fence repair on some of the perimeter fence. And so all that, we're estimating around $180,000 for capital improvements. Then in our asphalt, in previous years, we've had $1.5 million budgeted. For next year, looking at increasing that up to $2 million. One project for sure, I think, will be 12th Road from Shetland to Yearling, which would kind of tie on to this other stuff east of town. And then beyond that, we don't have it finalized exactly where the asphalt will go, but maybe something out here on Angus from 58th to 14th. We're at least doing some major patching this year, possibly late asphalt project this year, but that may get put off till next year. So we'll see how the rest of the summer goes with our other stuff and where we come with that. But there's definitely roads that need some asphalt, and we'll just kind of prioritize them as we go along. And that's it in a nutshell. So.
Pretty good sized nutshell.
Yeah, it is.
But we've got to keep ahead of the game.
Well, the cost of equipment and stuff, we're gonna have increases.
I think that's the most challenging part of the budgeting right now is just the price fluctuations the last 3-4 years, and you can't plan for that, so you do the best you can, and you get unforeseen circumstances, then we obviously we have to come and figure it out together on how to proceed and how to handle it, but this is just kind of our starting point, and obviously it's going to change, and it won't be the same by the end of the year that it is at the beginning of the year. That's just how it goes. But
have you heard anything on the Big Creek Bridge east of Leroy from KDOT?
No, I mean other than
their plans are.
Other than it's a 2025 project.
Yeah.
We kind of have some on the unofficial detour. We kind of have that stuff identified. I do have some costs associated that we're about ready to send back to them on what we're going to ask for some reimbursements, on some gravel and some dust control, and then, on the asphalt roads that they'll be using on some of that detour, there's some reimbursement on that side of it too. So,
It'll definitely put more traffic on some roads that we don't plan on.
No, that's right. I mean, that one's going to be a little difficult because there's not a close detour around that's really safe. I mean, some of those quick loops around there, the railroad, is there's no arms on those crossings, and
see that first mile, we just got to shut the traffic off of that road.
Yeah, no, that'll be the intention. There's some additional signage, or barricade it so trucks aren't using that, and there's going to be some local pickups and vehicle traffic that's probably going to wind up using it, but we'll discourage it the best we can.
That road you can't even pass each other on it.
No, right.
Parts trucking.
Right.
Yeah,
But like I say, we got a pretty good plan in place, and we'll go over that here in a few weeks before I send it to the state on where we're looking at that detour being and have that discussion with you guys, and just kind of the dollar figure for reimbursement and go from there on that.
Hey, Ryan, one of the things you and I talked about, and it's still an open item for the commissioners, is the request for road closing for Schmidt.
Yes.
That probably needs to be pulled from consideration. You've worked out something.
So, yeah, I've been in contact with him. Our surveyors have started doing some of the research work, some of the pre-work, to move forward with that. There's a lot of missing information out there as far as some section corners. We can continue to pursue it, but we're in our busy season right now, so it would be something later this late fall and winter if we wanted to pursue it. I talked with him, and he would basically his end goal was to put up a gate there at his property. He owns both sides, so I know there are agreements out there that that road could technically stay open and not have to go through the closure portion and all the work that goes into that. And he could still put a lock gate up there. He owns the property, it's his property. You know, I know a lot of counties do that. There's places in this county, there's agreements that the road's open, but yet there's a lock gate there for various reasons. So that may be, he may be pulling that request to ask for that to be closed. I just think it'd be a whole lot simpler and less time consuming for us if we looked at that. So, as of right now, we're probably not moving forward with that. You know, he's, like I say, he's totally fine with that, and he understands. It's just, anytime you're missing a lot of the section corners, and it's not just one like within a mile. We're in a couple mile radius there, so there's several corners and several stones we'd have to dig for.
Trying to establish where those are actually at.
Yes.
Accurate.
Yeah, and like I say, if there was something that we absolutely 100% needed that for, that could be done, but it's just, I don't know that we need to do that, and he's kind of in agreement too, so, but, so,
It's
legal's in agreement.
yeah.
It's an outstanding, item, and I didn't want anybody to think it wasn't being addressed and dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to it, we need to change and go through with the proceedings and all that process, I mean, we can, but it's not gonna be a month or two deal. I mean, it's gonna be a lengthy process to get us to the point that they'd be ready to
So
close.
is that sign marked for that road marked dead end?
It's marked minimum maintenance, no outlet.
Okay.
Yep, and then it ends right in that
Right.
detention dam.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And that's his intent though, is to run a fence through there, that's why he wanted it closed to begin with.
Yeah, it's just, nobody needs to be down there except for him, I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So there's a 1/4 mile road to be open that has different landowners, and then at the 1/4 mile line, then he owns from that to point to the water,
Yeah.
which is roughly not quite a 1/4 mile, but.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem as long as he's fine.
I mean, if he wants to withdraw his request, then that takes care of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
There's another one that's jumped in, maybe in its place, except for it deals with a platted subdivision, which is a whole different analysis. It's up in, I believe New Strong, if I remember, I've got it on my desk, just got dropped off last week. So a request to close a road, a street. So similar process, but under two different statutory mechanisms.
That's all I got. All right.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody have a good week.
You too, Joe.
Well, Wade's got a few items. You guys just wanna talk through, you wanna take a break and do roundtable after, Amber's prior discussion? Good, everybody?
Yeah, I said, yeah, I just,
What do you wanna do?
That'd be fine, I think. Yeah.
Take a break?
Well,
Sure.
Don't know if we need to, I don't need a break right now.
I don't either.
Okay.
I'd keep
You okay, Tom?
I'm fine. Roundtable, Wade.
I'm gonna hand this around. This is, what was dropped off to me Friday at some point. This is the handbook bound. I just wanna make sure it fits what you're wanting. All I have to do is call
That's nice.
and say, hit the print button, and I guess it'll be done.
Rock and roll.
That's pretty well what the bindings are.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So that's what you had in mind? You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big enough you can read it and everything?
Yep.
Yeah.
You good? Okay.
All right.
That's back to.
You want me to sign that one? Say I read it?
Several times.
still being hit up about things that are in it, but that's a whole other conversation for another
But
day.
that'll be ongoing, the
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
will.
the break as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's been 3 years, I think we're good.
There's an estimate from, I forget what the guy's name is, AAA Glass to install new window lower flashing and caulk at, health department windows. I think the guy's name is Bill, I can't remember what his name is, but he came, provided an estimate that was in combination with, DC Solutions for the potential water issue down there, and it was recommended this be done, and that may be the source or origin of the water coming in.
Okay.
So the estimate's for $812. I know it could have just been done, but I wanted to make sure. It was just given to me, so timing worked out.
Roll on.
Yeah, make her happen. Hopefully it'll help.
Next, I have two different executive sessions for two different topics. Topic one, myself and the board, under the attorney-client exception, it's in reference to a legal update regarding ongoing litigation pending against the county. I guess ongoing litigation. 10 minutes.
Is that a question?
No, 10 minutes. I was trying to decide whether 10 or 15, I think 10.
I'll make that motion. The board and you said
Yes.
the 10 minutes.
Regarding ongoing litigation. Curry moves.
I'll second that.
Go ahead.
Thompson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So at 12:05 for 10 minutes. Yeah. No action taken. But yet.
Another executive session.
Another executive session.
So this one, same people, same statutory authority, attorney-client, except for this one deals with legal advice relating to the current county policy regarding conflict of interest.
For how many minutes?
15.
You, need a motion to go in 15-minute executive session with Mr. Bowie and the board for, county policy. Is that correct?
Legal advice relating to current county policy regarding conflict of interest.
Also moved.
I'll second.
Gary seconded 15 minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're going at 12:21. Actually, 12:23.
That's good.
Yeah. For 15 minutes.
Right on your feet.
Yeah. If it hasn't moved,
Yeah, I know.
after I got out, it's
It's pretty quick, yeah.
No action taken. Anything else for
that covers my catch-up to-do list.
Steve?
No,
Don?
I'm good, Tom.
Wade?
No, sir.
Angie?
I do not believe I have anything.
Well, with that being said, I'm gonna do an executive session for 15 minutes with the board, including Mr. Knight, who is gone, providing he is, so,
For how long, Tom?
15 minutes, non-elected personnel, performance, the board, including Mr. Knight via phone.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved with Tracy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Go in.
You seconded, Don?
Yes.
Yes. I moved that.
Okay.
I think that's right, Angie.
12.
I thought you moved.
I did move.
12:45.
I mean, it's not that big a deal, but.
Well, yeah.
It's on audio, though.
Yeah, it is.
Somebody moved.
I told you guys I'd bring an entourage.
That you did.
You want me to run down and get that radio, or
I'll
are
come
you good after?
I'll come down and get it later.
No action taken at this time.
You brought chief gentlemen.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
I've been involved in the radio stuff for this county for a lot of years, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. Well, it's 1:02 and
We did our best.
we did our best to get back in time, so here we are. And thank you for coming back to continue this conversation, so. I think it's important, and I know it's important to you, so I'm going to give you as much time as you
Yes.
want and need.
Very important.
It's one of those things you don't want to have to try to rush through
No.
another appointment behind you.
How you doing?
You're good.
Do you guys still have your, presentation from last week, or do you need another copy? 'Cause I have
I
extra
still have
copies.
mine.
Okay. If you don't, I have other copies too.
I got the final.
Murphy Silver's name.
Sitting on my desk.
Have you got it?
Brad.
Amber, have you got it?
I sure do. You have yours,
Thank you.
Wade?
I think mine's, if you got one,
I
I'll
do.
take it. I think
I
it's
do.
over there in the file cabinet.
Yep. And then I will pass out this sheet.
I just found mine.
Scott had me work up this sheet. Oh,
Thank you.
Scott had me work up this sheet that kind of breaks everything down a little bit on the financing and the outright cost of everything. Have it all on one sheet, kind of looks easier to manage. First off, we have a lot of people here with us today, a lot of people that are interested in the radios and their functionality, but I also wanted to make sure, I didn't introduce them last time, but this is Connor Brady from Motorola
Hi.
and Troy Flair from TFMcom. They're our subject matter experts, and they work with us on lots of projects, including these towers. Wanted to make sure and get them introduced. And then I will probably just bring Scott and Martin back up here to continue where they left off, but I'm here just with any questions on any of this stuff that they
Okay.
presented.
Very good.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good.
I, was having a tactical issue getting out of your chair.
I noticed you're carrying way too much gear, guys.
Well, you guys, I got some new hardware up here.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to go through this whole, spiel again. I think we kind of nailed it pretty good.
Yeah.
If you do have questions, you know, that's what this session is for, is you guys to question us and ask us. So, I guess where I kind of was,
Martin talked briefly about, what it costs and how to buy it. Do we want to dive kind of a refresher back in on that? Because I think that's the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. The why we need the system we've got covered. So, do you want to cover, you want to jump in again? Just like what the total.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we know that, the cost of the 3 towers, based on the proposal that Motorola has provided us, is the $5,839,810. And there's Motorola's, they have a couple of different, finance options with that. I mean, I know that, the county's been putting some money back as far as for, cost of towers, in the future and everything. And, so there's always, the option of 25% down, when we sign the contract, and then 60% would be due, when the equipment arrives.
And that's 14
to
16 months.
Yes, sir.
Now, I do want to clarify, that's the estimated time. It could come earlier, it could come later.
Sure.
So.
You said 25 and then 60, when's the 15% down?
And then.
That's after it's fully installed.
Well, it breaks it up into a 10%, which that would be when the install is actually complete. And then it breaks it up into the remaining 5%, and that's after all of the testing has been accomplished.
Page 6, sir.
Page 6, yes.
One more.
Right there.
And this breakdown here is, it's just outright, let's go with it. And as we're putting out the time frames out there the best we can, as to when that money would be due.
Yeah, because the 14 to 16, I mean, when I first started, there were some radios ordered in 2022 that, we originally thought that we would get in like April of 23. They were purchased at the end of 22, and then they ended up not even, it took until in July, I believe, that year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're guesstimating that 14 to 16 months, and that's also based on what Motorola's, advised us as well.
Yeah.
So
That's where we've got these numbers with Motorola giving us their best guess.
Right.
And so and then, we thought if 14 to 16 months when they arrive, then we thought that the install of the 3 towers would be completed sometime in 2026. And then the testing would also we're hoping it would be accomplished in 26 as well.
See, at 26, we're gonna have over $4 million already set aside.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
And that leaves, that's $4 million, that leaves us with another 1.3 to finish up. And we've got equipment reserve,
And then.
general fund, there's 17 there, so I don't think there's any way we want to finance it. What's the interest charge on financing?
5.4 for a
See,
5-year finance.
In my opinion, we don't want to spend 5% on, we have the funding in place, plus we could add more to it to finish it up when it's due.
And that's where this addendum.
And that's where I stand, yeah.
That's where this addendum that I had Amber build up, where I was also looking at that too. 2024 estimated cost, would be the $1.45 million. 25 would be $3.5 million, and then 26 finishing it up at, a little bit, the $875,000. And then if you did the financing options, you look at those costs. I mean, you're right, sir, we're paying a lot of money to finance, and I just don't think that's a wise
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of financing, not when we're just supposed to, not when we can finance ourselves on this, the way it's set up.
Send Jesse a picture of that, that's the proposed site, he asked about that.
On these towers, is there any thing that in place to rent out space, or is that even possible?
So I was heading right to that one, page
Yeah.
7.
Okay.
Martin, go over page 7.
So, okay. So on page 7, we have some other associated costs that we want upfront and open. You know, we want openness on this whole thing. We don't want any more, whoa, wow, this came up and snuck up on us. So number one cost is gonna be fiber optic. That's gonna be about $50,000 a mile. Everything that we have picked as potential sites is less than a half mile from those, from where fiber optic is currently. So to minimize that, you know, we're trying to get this tower strategically placed where it's optimized for us, for the signal, but yet also keep the costs where it needs to be. Land acquisition and leasing. Since we are building towers, we need to secure, you know, land. We have some pretty good prospects on all 3 tower sites. I don't feel that we should probably really discuss that in an open meeting.
How big of an area did it go, an acre?
That's what, I asked Motorola that same
Or 40
question,
acres?
and
I mean,
We're looking,
43,000 square.
technical footprint of the tower would be 100 foot by 100 foot.
Okay.
That's with the fence and everything.
And these are freestanding.
These are freestanding towers.
That's not really an issue then.
You know, you have to have a roadway going to the tower, so there's a little bit of that, you know. So an acre is what we say.
Okay.
So then also you're gonna have to add utility costs. We gotta have power to these sites. There's gonna be, propane generators at these sites. So we gotta maintain propane, but we also have to maintain the generators. Somebody's gotta spray the weeds at the site, because you can't have trees and grass growing in it.
Your job.
If this gets through, I will gladly go
Hey, Martin
full weeds.
wrangles wasps at the siren, so we might can get him to do it.
And,
These are extra costs.
these are extra costs.
Do we have a guesstimate on those, or?
No, not yet.
Not on-
The fiber optics, though.
The fiber optic, we have a guess, absolute worst case scenario on the fiber optic, we would be looking at about 100
to 150
to 150.
at the maximum.
For all 3?
For all 3 sites combined. Where it gets expensive is we have to pay for that monthly fee, or is it quarterly fee for the fiber optic?
It'd be a monthly fee for the
So
fiber.
fiber fees are a little more than just your, like, standard internet stuff. I think currently we are paying $800 a month, right?
Yeah.
For the fiber that comes to this building for this tower. So that is a cost that, like I said, I want you guys to be aware of.
Per tower.
24.
Yeah, per tower.
And that was how much?
800
It'd be
a month.
24 hours a month.
2,400 a month for all 4 towers. So, the fiber works best. There is another option of microwaving these towers. The problem with microwave is you start dealing with atmospheric issues. And I know from when I was up in Osage County, we had ice fall off the tower and crush one of our microwaves. We had to buy a new microwave. We also had the wind knock the microwave out of alignment, and it becomes a mess.
Yeah, and microwave is kind of a thing of the past, is it not?
So, yeah, the fiber is a lot better, more secure way to go about it. Unfortunately, there's that back end cost. So then the other thing would be just, that, you know, we already covered the upkeep with it. The benefits of the towers, we can lease space on the towers.
What annual fees, though?
Annual fees, the annual fees would be your electricity, you know, that'd be fiber, pest control,
The
maintenance.
Motorola fees.
Okay.
Maintenance of the buildings and stuff like that, groundskeeping, those kind of fees. So those would be the annual fees of the tower sites.
And the fee for Motorola.
There is also the warranty fee that you would have to pay too.
The service description, it would be like the advanced plus maintenance, and then also the SUA agreement. And though it on page, what is it, 3, it's going to give you a breakdown of that post-warranty coverage.
And those warranties and stuff like that are required by the state. It's not a Motorola requirement, it's a state requirement. That's what gives you your network security, and make sure that everything we have is compatible with the state radio system.
Be like the security agreements, update your firewalls and everything in your equipment for that type of purpose.
This warranty does cover if a piece of equipment breaks, Motorola will send you replacements of them, correct, guys?
This is a warranty on all 3 towers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It'd also bring in the 4th tower too, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tower.
So they'll bring in our tower out back also.
Which we are already paying that.
Yeah, that's the reason we're wanting to continue to do that.
Yes.
So this is
Real quick.
the warranty would start after year 1, is that correct?
Yeah.
The first
Yes.
year,
Yeah.
it's warranted for 1 year.
Correct.
Right. So it'd be like, hopefully 2027 would probably be when it would start.
Right.
So that wouldn't cover storm damage or anything, then I take it?
That would not cover storm damage, that would be on us.
So that would be covered through.
Insurance.
That would be, yeah.
the
Our
town
insurance.
yes.
Yeah, we would want to have these on, EMC,
The towers would be.
the towers insured. Yeah, just in case they get hit by a tornado or something like that.
And we do have, our equipment here inside is covered. In fact, that was something that was just put on the insurance or updated, I believe, this year.
And to our understanding, the new updates for 25, I mean, that's in this price.
Yes, we will get the new equipment.
Yeah, new equipment that's.
Yeah. Yep.
This, that equipment plus tower out here.
Yes, it'll take care of this
So
tower
we
too.
get four different
Yes.
towers with new equipment.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a
Correct?
total of,
Yeah.
we'll have a total of 4 towers, and then that'll be the upgrading the equipment here, and then the equipment at the 3 new tower sites with, new towers, new equipment,
Right.
everything there. And it'll basically, it'll be that brand new equipment that Motorola's coming out with in August. So, and that's the big thing, because if we didn't, do this project, for one, the price is gonna go up, but also in the near future, we're gonna have to change the equipment out anyway. Because it's gonna be end of life.
If we lease the space out on the tower, is it a significant dollar amount? Or does it depend
So
what-
we looked at leasing tower space, and the current price that we were looking at was $2,000 to $2,500 a month.
What would we receive if we leased our new ones out?
That's probably what we'd be asking.
$3,000 a month or $60 a year? That's not significant really, so it is
Help with
significant.
some of this yearly.
Yeah.
It costs you $150,000 a year just down,
Yeah.
give or take.
So,
With leasing space on the tower, if you will, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you see like several companies
I could
wanting
see
to-
multiple companies potentially, I can't guarantee that anybody's ever gonna lease off
Right,
of
but I
us,
mean.
but cellular companies, because we would not be within their height. Cellular
Internet.
companies are looking for about 150 foot in tower height or so. And then the other big thing would be high-speed internet, like your Mercury
MT.
Wireless, MT, and those.
They would be looking to latch on, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we got a brand new tower put down there 4 miles west of Leroy on 58. I don't know how tall it is or how much is available there.
Well, that's the problem with the whole leasing thing is whoever, you gotta make sure that it's got your height requirements, and then it's also, coverage that you need. And then we also would be, if we wanted to lease a tower, we have to make sure that that tower is structurally engineered to hold our equipment. And that, if we leased our tower space, we would put that in as part of our contract that whoever was wanting to lease would do a engineer study on our tower to make sure that it was structurally sound enough to hold our equipment and their equipment.
On their part.
On their cost,
Right,
not us.
right.
Well, from the manufacturer, when you purchase the tower, do they have a engineer's recommendation of what it can all hold, or?
I'm gonna have to default to these guys for that question.
Yeah, it's definitely engineered to hold your equipment, and then I would think some future growth as well.
And you say, how tall are these?
The Lebo one would be 300, the Leroy one would be 300, and the Gridley one would be 200.
That's just based on terrain.
That is,
that the way it is?
we spent several meetings with Motorola in which they were making maps, kind of like what you guys see on page 2. And we would move the sites around to different spots within the county. And then we would fluctuate the altitude of the antenna up and down, trying to find what is the best bang for our buck. And also we did it with the configurations of number of towers. We looked, what if we had 3 towers? What if we had 4 towers? What if we had 5 towers? And then we started looking at, what if we built a 500-foot tower versus this? Are we gaining anything by it? And stuff like that. And so this is where sitting down and having several meetings with Motorola's engineers, this is what we came up with our best optimized plan.
So if, you've got surrounding counties, like, you've got Greenwood County that's, I don't know where they have towers, but you're a long ways away from county seat. Is it beneficial to have Gridley's be 300 feet as well?
Well,
Woodson,
for
Greenwood?
us, Coffee County, that additional 100-foot, no. But for surrounding counties going higher, yes.
I mean, am I correct that surrounding counties can?
Yeah, they would be able to use these towers.
As a repeater would be what I call it. I don't know if that's how the system works, but.
Yeah, it's a repeater.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it would be beneficial to go, higher if we were trying to benefit our surrounding counties. You could go higher in Leroy, another 100 feet, and that would help Anderson, Allen, and Woodson out even more.
What's those extra 100 feet cost?
I don't know. I never thought.
What's our 200 to 300?
Well,
the difference
and
there?
Do we
An
have
idea?
what's the?
Yeah, about 150,000 for 100. And when we ran the test, we had our engineers do 200 compared to 300, and the cost to how much extra coverage you get, it wasn't worth it.
Within the Coffee County, but they're saying it's about 150,000 for another 100 foot on the.
The 100 feet didn't change the map too much, even in the surrounding counties.
That was my question, because, trying to think a little outside of just us here,
And these towers are gonna benefit over into Greenwood. They are gonna benefit down Woodson County, Anderson County, Osage, Franklin as well. So they are gonna get benefits from these towers, for sure.
Even if it's footage.
Yeah, even with this.
Yes.
Yeah. Osage County is excited about the Leroy Tower, because after they just finished their tower project, they're having a little problems getting into Melbourne Lake because of the way their towers are, and this would flow right into Melbourne Lake for them.
It should, I mean.
Just got hit by a tornado, so.
Yeah.
And we also noticed that it helps down, it might not help with the handheld coverage as much, but the mobile, like in your vehicle coverage, down towards Woodson County for the reception center down there. So that was a positive, for sure.
Where do we need to go? or to Amber, where do we need to go now to get everything on our timetable?
I believe we just need to decide how you want to go about this. I think that you're saying that you don't want to finance,
Right.
so we need to just go outright, and then we probably need to come back with you some better numbers on those extra costs.
I'd like to see
Yeah.
a spreadsheet on those better numbers.
Yeah, because we haven't even, we've talked to some of the landowners. There's, all the sites are pretty well established except for one that we have not discussed as a private landowner. So we would need to see what they're gonna want. We do know what they want in Leroy and, Lebo, and then we need to talk to them about the fiber. We're pretty sure that that's the cost, but we don't know, for sure, definite. We could come back with some exact numbers, and then we could get this approved, and then get at least their Motorola's contract signed. Because like we said, we need to do it before July 18th, where the price goes up. No pressure, but we've really been working on this quite a bit with Motorola. Martin and Scott have been holding them, to their word on everything that's in that binder there. And we have a few tweaks and things that we found in that contract that they're gonna fix for us, so we would come back with an amended contract.
Yeah, everything on page 7, we need to know those costs.
Yep.
On these costs associated with, it says, acquisition or lease on the land, I'm assuming you're gonna try to buy it if possible.
Yes and no. Yes,
and no.
on both.
Yes and no.
One of the sites, definitely, it would be like a 100-year lease, that we're looking at. I'm trying to be guarded as to what I'm saying, but.
I understand.
There's another piece of land that we've already been told what we would be looking at minimum cost. And so.
As a lease or a buy?
As a buy, they don't lease. And then the other one, we kind of haven't really approached. We've heard that they're positive, but we really haven't approached.
Maybe I'd asked a question that shouldn't have been asked.
Nope.
I mean, I think it'd be beneficial to purchase if you can, where possible.
Yeah.
The county's figuring on being around, so.
Yeah.
Why not, why have another cost that's
I mean,
continual?
I would love to get into the conversation with you guys, but I don't think this is the place.
Absolutely.
And some of the properties, not to give anything away, but some of those are in city limits, so it's the city-owned property, and they maybe don't want to sell, but they are good with leasing. We just have to work kind of some of the finances out.
I'd rather buy than lease.
Right.
They might think about that.
Well, and I think that, I mean, it's no good to anybody if we have our tower sitting on it, so,
This 50,000 per mile, I think I understood that for every tower, it's less than a mile.
Yes.
Okay.
from where the
So
nearest.
they won't have a huge cost. Okay.
I just want to throw that number out because that's
the top number.
the higher of the ponies. I don't want to.
Right.
But I want you guys to understand that it could be less.
Right, so the cost that we gave you, that, $5,839.810, that is without these extra costs. This is just Motorola's contract price for what they're gonna do for us. The rest of it will be above and beyond that.
And I think that all of those costs, whether it's electric, whether it's fiber and land acquisition, I feel pretty confident that we can get it for under $300,000.
I would even say even lower.
So I think that would be the top.
So.
It'd only be another, I shouldn't say only, because 300 is a lot of dollars.
It is
Yes.
a lot
So
of
that's
money.
less than 5% of the first cost.
Yeah.
It's money I didn't think I would be
I think
spending.
we gotta do what's right.
Yeah.
So when would be a good time? When would be a good time
They
to?
need something by the 18th.
18.
We got 2 weeks on.
Yep.
Yeah.
We could, take,
Next week. That's what I'm thinking.
We could come back next week and present you what we've come up with,
That'd be good.
as far as numbers.
So,
Sounds like you got everybody's
I think we've got the
approval.
intent, yeah.
Pretty
Partial
much.
blessings?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I spoke to Knight on the phone earlier today and told him you guys were coming in and he supported it.
You wanna try next week at the same time?
I don't know what the agenda looks like, but I don't know what the agenda looks like, but unless you think it's gonna turn into a
What do
meeting
you got for
conversation.
agenda, Brad?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I'm neck deep in the election.
We have the chamber next week at 1 o'clock discussion, so, continuation of the meeting next week at 1 o'clock, so I'm gonna assume this wouldn't take too long where you can just.
Oh, no, yeah, we should, I mean, if you gave us, 30 minutes or so, we could probably,
Yeah.
It might fit in the morning, just
Yeah.
to see what falls.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do that, I'll, if you, I'll call and get it set
I'll
up.
set it up for
Okay.
in the morning for you.
so the land is gonna be a hard one to get you guys an exact number next week. I can get,
Estimate everything on the high side, that way we're not disappointed.
yeah, I can tell you 20,000 right now. I can tell you 20,000 right now.
Yeah, but,
Based on buy or lease?
Buy.
and it's probably in our insurance, book somewhere, but if somebody could reach out to
How much the tower
Bobby
will,
at Trust Point, might throw that number in there just as well for
So electricity,
giggles and grins.
electricity, fiber, land, and insurance.
Correct.
Okay. Because I'm assuming like you guys don't want us to give you like annual generator upkeep.
No.
Propane, we really don't think we're gonna, it's
Right.
looking at 1,000-gallon tank that we'll have to fill one, so there's 3 of those, we'll have to fill one time,
And that's what's going to provide.
that'll
power.
run the
The
generator.
generator for the power, for the
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah, and weed control, if there's any pest control, I assume those are just,
So would that be maintenance of this, the utilities and all like that being in emergency management budget?
I
or-
would keep it under the radio budget.
Okay.
I think all of it would go under the radio budget, because it is radio, related. We just have to expand that a little bit next year,
Okay.
see what we're looking at.
Alright.
and then another maintenance item, Troy, you said about every 5 years we need somebody to climb the tower to just inspect it. Okay.
You're good with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
He's good with somebody doing it.
Better
Scott
Give
than
me
me,
5
I'll
years
tell
to
you
work
that.
on my flexibility and.
You need somebody experienced, because we had that tower that Leroy lost somebody.
Yep.
Here 2-3 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Gotta be experienced people.
Yep.
Yeah, there's.
That would be TFM comm people. They climbed this tower out back and put our camera up for us, so they know what they're doing.
Anything else that we can help you guys with? We don't wanna drag you guys out.
No, you're fine, that's what the 1 o'clock's all about, where everybody's not rushed.
There
nobody-
may be another
that's
question or
worried.
two next week, but we'll just address it. I think you got everything pretty well down.
If you can get those things, I think would be.
The best we can do.
I guess, just to let you know my take on it, I mean, seems like since, and maybe it's just been that way for every commissioner, but it seems like I've been here, we get, people darken the doorway all the time with another project or more expenses and more expenses. But we're fortunate to live in a county that we live in to where, it's not a struggle, but yet we still got to be mindful of expenditures and,
Well, and that's why I asked TFM comm and Motorola, I'm like, how do some of these other counties do this? Because, I mean, we're fortunate that we put some money
Right.
back and we could do this. They just have to finance it or
Right.
wait for a windfall. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't
But it
imagine.
sounds like it's something that, we're just, if we don't do it, we're prolonging the inevitable, sounds like, am I correct? with that?
And Scott warned us that we would need to do this eventually, and that's when you guys started putting that money away in the piggy bank, so.
Yeah.
we were smart about it.
Well, just for the, I mean, the good thing about this, I'm with Tom, I'm conscious about spending this kind of money, but this makes it safer for all of our emergency people, and it benefits everyone in the county in my way, virtually.
And
you know,
outside the
so-
county.
So that makes it much easier for me to say, yeah, I think we need this.
And that's why all these people come, because they are really vested in it. They're the ones that have to use these towers, and they're the ones that
Right.
it really matters for, so.
All right, we'll come back to those numbers and
Like, got the support.
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you guys for your time.
But yeah, the financing would be out for me.
Okay, financing out.
Yeah, 'cause we're halfway there already.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I figured, but I just needed you
Right,
guys to say
right.
that.
Yeah.
That time we need it, well, time we need it, well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are you going now?
Thank you.
Everybody appreciate it.
Where you gentlemen house looking?
I'm
out of Wichita.
Yeah,
out of Wichita.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, so
Thanks for your-
we're gonna see you next Monday.
Anything at all, they know how to get a hold of us if you have
Okay.
questions or you need any
I
help.
can leave help with business cards too. Thank you for your time.
On the agenda next week in the morning.
See you next week.
So if you wanted to do 9:15 or something, jump right in.
Yeah.
We can jump right in and do it, yeah.
That's fine.
9:15? Yeah, tell
Yeah.
us what we done. How long is that? Is it 30 minutes or?
However long you want to set it for at this point.
Do you think 30 minutes is enough, or?
I can't.
We did 30 minutes last time and it wasn't enough.
Well, I know, but most of, I mean, you've been
And I'll
well
try
over
not.
30 minutes now. I think the major part of the discussion is done. We
Right.
just need to
Yep.
see those final numbers of annual cost and then decide where that money,
Let's do 30 and.
if we don't need it, we don't need it.
30 minutes.
If we don't need it, we don't need it.
I sure should prefer to.
And if there are numbers that are done by the end of the week, I don't know if that's possible even.
Yeah, I'll
We
try.
can have it put it on Canvas so it goes out to these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they can sit around while they're fishing over the weekend.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys do? You fish and you look at.
Hopefully.
Be good to look at it.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Oliver.
Get that out of the way.
That's a huge product, but it's a good product to do, so.
Angie said she didn't have anything earlier.
Thank you.
I think I had mine. Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Give me a
He
holler.
got his mug on his, so we know who we're listening.
Yeah, let's put it up on the old dartboard.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Well, I'm wondering if we had no other, have a conversation with Mr. Bowie. To make sure we're on the right
Oh,
path.
yes.
Make sure we're on
Yes.
the right path.
Yep.
Let's do that. Let's have a 10-minute executive session with the board of Wade Bowie. Non-elected personnel. Now, policy and procedures.
Yeah.
Move.
I'll second.
So, it's policy and procedure, is it non-elected personnel policy and procedure?
Correct. Well, yeah, no.
I don't know if that's I think either, if it's policy and procedure.
And I may not even need this. Maybe a short conversation with you, I guess.
Well, if it's policy and procedure, and it involves me not knowing exactly is it legal advice regarding policy and procedure?
I guess you could call it that.
Policy, I mean, some of it, we get into that.
I just wanna make sure it's a valid motion that covers what it needs to
Yeah.
cover. let
When
me.
you say attorney-client
And I'm not saying we gotta
matters
go
regarding
into exec-
policies and procedures. all that.
Well,
And that's what I was hearing, but I don't exactly know.
I can't bring one up on here because I'm disconnected somehow.
you're fine.
Could you step out and wait 5 minutes?
So, non-elected personnel, if you wanna go there, and there's a number of job performance, discipline, evaluation, there's some level where you can cover protected health information regarding non-elected personnel. If it's related to a discussion about policy and procedure and
Well, maybe no more, it's not about policy manual itself, it's just about procedures.
Okay, so
We wanna make sure we're choosing the right avenue to.
legal advice regarding county policy or procedure? Does that?
Yeah, that would cover it, I would think. Like I say, maybe I didn't need to do this, but.
I just wanna make sure it's,
Described properly.
well, a legal and valid motion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but.
I don't know if legal's quite right or not, but.
Yeah. He'll cover it all. You didn't type in there, did you, Brad?
I didn't, I just now got back up.
Okay, yeah, you're fine. Well,
I could read what it was.
10-minute executive session with county counselor and the board.
Attorney-client,
Attorney-client,
and to provide,
legal advice,
legal advice regarding,
procedures. That's how I would word
county
it.
policy and procedure, or county.
Procedure. Yes.
B2.
I so move.
I'll second.
Agreed, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 1:45, excuse me. 10 minutes?
I think that's what we do.
Yeah.
Hello, I'll call you back.
That was what I said. Back to me. Who knows? That's okay.
I'm gonna be waiting on Wade. Now we're waiting on, oh, there he is.
Oh, you had me sign.
No, I'm kidding.
Still for her. We're good, we were back here. We don't have to be doing something just because we're here, you know.
No action taken. Oh, we got some special issues here. I almost forgot. Almost forgot it. I was gonna adjourn. I guess if I missed something, let me know. Assuming you were good, Wade, for the day, round table?
Yes. As far as I know.
Brad, they don't have anything, do you?
I do not have anything.
Plans for the fourth?
We can have any plans forever. Plan for my wife to make it back from Texas. She's been doing babysitting the grandkids.
She'll let you know what your plans are then.
Yeah.
That's one.
I have to go down to Kelly Park and see the music box people singing.
Yeah.
Are all of them showing up or just Jill?
Seems like quite a few.
Woogie and them?
Yeah, Russell Wolf.
Oh, yeah?
Not sure exactly who.
All asphalt again.
Yes. All those, just anxious foods. Do have
This is all out of that folder.
2 weeks from Wednesday, we start the early voting for the primary election.
When's the date of that?
Really?
The 17th is.
17th?
Yeah,
Start
16th
date.
will be the close of registration, and
Wow.
last day to register, and 17th will be mail ballots start going out and open for that.
That's right.
I haven't really talked to Angie about how much volume, if we can, we'll probably be able to just do it in our office and set up a couple machines, and we haven't seen that much energy around it yet.
And what's that on, Brad?
It's on everything, all the county offices, the
Two commissioners.
US House of Representatives and
Or
state senate. State representative and all the township people, well, trustees and treasurers, and
I guess this year is going too fast.
it is.
well, we've already had 2 elections.
I know.
this year, which is 2 more than we normally would have.
Just all the,
In full,
Does the, Verdi come back on Trump
Just-
today?
just this.
Yes.
Okay, so this,
Oh, I'm
trying not to watch that stuff.
Is it Supreme Court?
Blood pressure's too high already, oh, yeah.
Supreme Court ruling today?
I have no opinions from 8 to 5.
surveillance.
So whenever I'm wearing a Coffee
Probably more
County shirt.
cameras.
What?
Surveillance equipment, 17,000, that's probably more cameras down.
Yep.
What do you think of the towers, Wade? Bowie?
For emergency responder purposes and the overall effectiveness of community safety, they're a necessity. I don't think you can ever question the necessity of something like that, but they are paramount to emergency responders and law enforcement being able to do their job. One, for their own safety, and 2, for the safety of the citizens of the county. When I'm told that they have issues from time to time in certain quadrants of the county communicating with each other or getting in and out, then that's an imminent situation that has the potential to go create a disaster.
And the Waverly area has been blessed with that tower up there, and I do know that the communications on the 3 other corners have been questionable a lot of the times. Not all the time, but just a line of communication.
You know, somebody that doesn't not involved in those types of situations every day or whatever, they probably don't. I mean, I realize the importance of it, but I don't see the importance of it because I don't have to,
Sure.
you know what I mean? I don't live it, so.
You know, the problem is when whatever Leroy or Lebo or Griffin gets a call and you don't get a response out of them and they have to recall, not always is it a line of communication, but a lot of the time it is. They just don't hear the calls for whatever reason. And, this should eliminate any and all problems like that. And it's a horrible amount of money, I just do understand.
That's done, yeah, it's a bunch.
But you still have holes out there, and it seems like all the towns have been that, where you can't even get a cell phone.
Right.
Right. And that's, and as far as if we put that much money into those and don't have a cell phone
Yeah.
tower.
No, I think in our case, a lot of them, these phone companies won't pay for roaming. We've got signal virtually, not everywhere, but virtually everywhere, but they don't pay for roaming anymore.
Right.
You know? You can only make a 911 call. Yeah, I mean, the signal's there. But they don't want me to talk to anybody else other than police.
So, I think everybody does agree, it is a lot of money, and we've got the fund set aside for the big end of it as it comes due, but, you know, talk about the safety for firemen and safety for, you know, our police department.
It's
But
law
you talk
enforcement.
about somebody having a heart attack or something, and
It's law
those 4 or
enforcement.
5, those 4 or 5 minutes might save some citizens over a period of time.
Well, yeah.
What's the value of that?
Well, we
Can't put a value on it.
You got an officer that can't even get out if he walks out of a house. That's a pretty serious deficit in my mind.
And Steve, he's familiar with it all the time on police department, or fire department.
Fire. But whether it's fire, EMS, or law, I mean, it's, we all work within the same system.
Right.
But it is a lot of money.
Sounds like it's well needed, so. Anybody's got anything? Not? We will adjourn at 2:06.
Very good.
Lunchtime.
Lunchtime.